Chapter 722. 20 seconds ago, in the stone pavilion, Ji Xiaolong launched an attack, and Feng Bujue responded. So fast, even Ji Lei Long couldn't help but be shocked. When Feng Bujue jumped back, his speed had reached the limit of what her eyes could capture. In other words, if Brother Ju had moved a bit faster, Ji Lei Long wouldn't have been able to see him clearly. At the same time, Su Huaishang also moved. She instinctively pulled out her twin swords and rushed towards Ji Lei Long. Oh, even Lady Su is also. Ji Tu-Long didn't expect that the beautiful lady next to Master Feng was also a powerful warrior. She had purposely avoided Su Huaishang when she attacked, but now it seemed like she had done something unnecessary. Don't move. In the blink of an eye, Su Huaishang's voice sounded in Ji Lei Long's ears. Two cold blades were placed on Ji Lei Long's neck. Of course, Ji Mao Long was not someone to be trifled with. She was one of the strongest combatants in Saint Chi world, so the possibility of her being suppressed by a sudden attack was slim. The moment the blade touched Ji Mao Long's skin, she had already condensed her Saint Chi and covered the surface of her body, forming an invisible layer of armor. Ji Xiaolong had already prepared a defensive measure, so he was not afraid. Therefore, he smiled and said calmly, "Miss Su, it seems that your pair of swords are not just for self-defense, right?" She paused for a moment and said slowly, "The intent of the blade comes first. The spirit is complete, and the strength is complete. You are a master. City Lord is too kind. It's just a small trick." Su Huaishang's expression was cold. She had already entered a serious state. Goddess Su was a very rational person. To her, no matter how beautiful Ji Lei Long was, she was just an NPC in a game. She would not be infatuated with a virtual character. So, when it was time to attack, she would attack without hesitation. "I'm fine. Don't get too excited. City Lord Ji is just playing with me." At this moment, Feng Bujue, who was floating above the lotus pond, spoke. "Phew!" Su Huaishang let out a long breath. She moved her hands away from Ji Lei Long's neck. "Ha ha!" Ji Tu-Long laughed and said, "Interesting, you two are both interesting." As she spoke, she turned to face the lotus pond and said to Feng Bujue, "Master Feng is indeed extraordinary. Even in that unavoidable situation just now, you were still able to turn the situation around and use your technique and not your physical body to resist my saint origin energy. City Lord Ji, you have good eyes." Brother Ju also looked at him and replied in a low voice. When he said this, Feng Bujue's expression was very calm, but in his heart, he was already nervous. Yes, Brother Ju's power system was different from this world's, and this gave him a certain advantage. But power was power. As long as one could see through the rules, there was no advantage to speak of. Ji Lei Long was indeed a Yuan sage. Compared to the previous opponents, she was on a completely different level. After just one round of battle, she had already analyzed Feng Bujue's weakness. He did not have the ability to directly resist Saint Origin energy attacks with his physical body. This woman was really scary. Then, should I target this weakness next? Ji Lei Long asked again. Of course, Feng Bujue said, in a competition, it is common sense to attack the opponent's weakness. Humph. Are you going to use some dirty tricks again? At this moment, Su Huaishang, who was standing in the stone pavilion, suddenly interjected in a lukewarm tone. "Hey!" Feng Bujue had obviously been exposed and immediately shouted, "Who are you on? Anyway, you're just comparing notes. It's not like you want to take each other's lives." Su Huaishang said as she sheathed her sabers and sat back down at the table. She took a sip of tea and said, "Under this premise, I support City Lord Ji." "Ha ha! Miss Su is really cute." Ji Lei Long looked back at Su Huaishang affectionately, then looked at Brother Ju and said, "Master Feng, are you really just friends?" "No, just earlier, our friendship ended." Feng Bujue crossed his arms in front of his chest and replied grumpily. "Huh." Su Huaishang was not to be outdone. "I couldn't ask for more." Ji Lei Long looked at the two of them and seemed to have thought of an idea. "Good. Very good." As she muttered these words, her feet moved lightly and she stepped into the air. Her graceful body was like a falling leaf as she gently floated into the air. Above the lotus pond, she stood opposite Brother Jew and looked at him from afar. Master Feng, I have an idea. Ji Lei Long smiled and said to Brother Jew, it's the same thing as what you did at the South Gate. Why don't the two of us make a bet? Oomph. Feng Bujue snorted coldly. When Ji Lei Long said the word idea, he had already guessed that her target was Su Huaishang. What kind of bet? It's very simple. The two of us will compare notes on this lotus pond. If Master Feng can touch my body in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, then you win. If you can't, then I win. Ji Lei Long replied. So what if I win? So what if you win? Feng Bujue tilted his head and asked with a smile like a ruffian. If Master Feng wins, I will immediately give you a high-grade magic treasure and send the two of you off. Ji Chuelong replied, If I win, I will also give Master Feng a mid-grade magic treasure and personally escort him out of the palace. However, here, she turned around to look at Su Huaishang. Miss Su will have to stay. Huh? Su Huaishang was stunned. That can't be right. What does your bet have to do with me? Do you mind if I ask? Why did you ask her to stay? Feng Bujue's tone chilled, and his eyes sharpened. Huh, you're not even friends. What does it have to do with you why I want her to stay? Ji Lei Long replied. That makes sense. Feng Bujue nodded. Hey, Su Huaishang was already angry. She shouted at them. Did the two of you hear what I said? Don't decide whether someone stays or leaves. Can I ask again? If she doesn't want to stay, do you have any way to make her stay? Feng Bujue asked again. Of course. Ji Lei Long smiled. From the moment you entered the Pity Fairy Palace, staying or leaving was not something you could decide. As soon as she said this, a thought flashed through Feng Bujue's mind. So, he blurted out, Woman's fragrance? Master Feng, you're really smart, Ji Long said. I don't believe in body fragrance anyway. Feng Bujue said, whether you believe it or not, it doesn't change anything. Ji Lei Long raised her right hand and started to stroke her hair. That's right. Woman's fragrance is not a body fragrance. It is a colorless, poisonous fog. If you stay in this fog for a while, you will not be able to breathe the air of the outside world. You can only leave the Pity Fairy Palace after you consume the antidote that I personally made. No wonder you have so many wives. Aren't you afraid that they will run away? Feng Bujue laughed. My women will never run away. Ji Lei Long let go of the hair in her hand and said coldly, Besides, that has nothing to do with you. She flung her sleeves and placed her hands behind her back. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. Master Feng, what do you think about this bet? Feng Bujue shrugged and laughed. Can I not bet? Ji Lei Long smiled seductively. Take a guess. Brother Zhu looked at Su Huaishang. Miss Su, what do you think? How about the two of us attack together and kill her? Su Huaishang suggested in a serious tone. That's a good idea. Feng Bujue replied. Compared to me, fighting her alone, if the two of us work together, we have a higher chance of killing her. Master Feng, have you heard of the phrase, an ant trying to shake a tree? Ji Lei Long interrupted with a cold smile. However, Brother Zhu ignored her and continued to talk to Su Huaishang. But there is a problem. Even if we kill her, we may not be able to get the antidote. Plus, she has a lot of subordinates. Unless we can instantly kill her. Please note that this possibility is very small. Otherwise, she can call a few dozen St. Yuan infinity-level experts to help her at any time. At that time, the two of us will be finished. All right. After listening to Brother Zhu's analysis, Su Huaishang gave up. She sat down and prepared to watch the show. Let's bet. It's okay to lose? Brother Zhu saw this and asked maliciously. Actually, it's okay. Su Huaishang replied. Besides, I have the protection of the system. Nothing will happen. She pointed at Ji Lei Long. Besides, she is just a woman. What could she do to me? Due to the system's interference, Ji Lei Long did not hear the middle part of the sentence. However, she heard the beginning and the end. She immediately continued. Miss Su, please don't misunderstand. I asked you to stay because I want to talk to you about the weather and enjoy the scenery. There is nothing wrong. Fine. You don't have to explain it to me. Su Huaishang interrupted impatiently. If you want to fight, then fight, heir. Okay. Jilei Long did not know whether Su Huaishang's reaction was good or bad. Up until now, things had been going according to her script. Now, in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea and a mediocre mid-grade magic treasure, she would be able to send Feng Bujue away, Governor Ji. Feng Bujue's floating time was almost up. He stood on the water and said casually, I can start any time. Okay. Jilei Long waved her sleeves, and an hourglass appeared in her hand. This time, it will take the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. As she said this, she threw the hourglass behind her. The hourglass spun a few times in the air and suddenly stopped. It remained vertical and did not move. At this moment, the sand began to flow. Master Phone, please. Before Jilei Long could finish the word please, she realized that Feng Bujue had disappeared from her sight. Chapter 723. Heh, Master Feng, you are indeed an expert. Ji Xiaolong smiled and said, I thought you used all of your speed when you leaped out of the pavilion. Chi. Before Ji Toalong could finish her words, two beams of golden light had already darted out from the air, drawing two strange arcs in the air and attacking her ribs. I didn't expect you to still be holding back. As she spoke, she raised her right hand and formed an eggshell-shaped Saint Origin energy field in front of her. It's just that the flying speed of these two spells isn't as fast as the speed of your body. In the next second, the two death poker cards hit the Saint Origin energy force field. The former was instantly turned into dust. And it's ridiculously weak. Ji Xiaolong looked at the golden dust and shook her head as she muttered. Bang! Almost at the same time as she spoke, the sound of something breaking through the air came from behind her. It was the sound of Brother Ju using the body enhancement spell, change, and using all of his strength to perform the moon steps. With this push, Feng Bujue's speed had reached the limit of his current state. If there was no accident, in half a second, Brother Ju would catch Ji Tamlong with a beautiful grappling move and win the bet. His battle strategy was simple, clear, and efficient. Strike first to gain the initiative, create a diversion, and capture the enemy in one move. From the sudden acceleration at the beginning, to the feint attack with the death poker cards, to the sneak attack from behind, everything was done in one go. However, this time he miscalculated. Suddenly, the sound of boiling water came from the sky, followed by a red mist of blood. Then, the sound of 3 powerful moon steps could be heard. Bang, bang, bang. With each step, Ji Xiaolong moved further away from Ji Xiaolong. Master Feng, how are you? Are you hurt? Ji Xiaolong slowly turned around and asked in the direction of the sound. On the other side, Feng Bujue's figure reappeared amidst the bloody light. For some unknown reason, his 2 forearms were already dripping with blood. I see. No wonder you put forward the condition of I win if I touch your body within a certain period of time. Feng Bujue took the opportunity to deactivate the body enhancement technique, shook his arms, and said, You're relying on your protective energy shield, aren't you? Protective energy shield? Ji Chuolong murmured, This is the first time I've heard something like this. Then what do you suggest? Feng Bujue asked. Heh. Ji Chuolong smiled and said, Actually, I don't know what it is called either. She paused for a moment before revealing a rather proud look. This technique is a technique I created after I stepped into the Yuan Sage realm. I have almost never used it in front of anyone, so it is yet to be named. At this point, she put her hands behind her back and made a fearless gesture. Oh, that's right. Master Feng is an otherworldly expert and has seen many things. He must have seen similar techniques before, which is why he was able to name it. I think we might as well call it the protective energy shield. Interesting. As Feng Bujue muttered these 3 words, his thoughts were racing and he immediately saw a flaw. Since you have a protective energy shield, why did you use your Saint Origin energy as a shield to block my flying cards just now? It's my instinct, Ji Chuolong replied calmly. Ji Xiaolong's expression didn't change, and he replied calmly. It's like you've already mastered the diamond body, but when a knife is flying towards your face, as long as it's not too late, you'll still block it with your hand first. Okay, then block it again and let me see. As Feng Bujue spoke, a golden light flashed in his hand, and the fifth special effect of the death poker, soul chasing, randomly consumed 30 cards to release 1 to 100 cards with a power of 7 in an instant, was activated. In the blink of an eye, 100 golden lights flew out. Under the precise control of the zero-time difference calculation, these light cards attacked Ji Tuolong at slightly different speeds and from 100 different angles. TSK. Ji Tuolong saw this and snorted unhappily. She immediately clenched her fists and made a move. A vast amount of Saint Origin energy gushed out. In an instant, a protective energy shield with a radius of 10 feet appeared with Ji Tuolong as the center. No matter how tricky the attacking angles of the 100 golden lights were, or how well they coordinated with each other, they could only be reduced to nothingness in front of this defense that had no blind spots. Castellan Ji, according to my observation, Feng Bujue touched his chin and said thoughtfully, "Your protective energy shield seems to have some flaws." Ji Tuolong saw through her lies and could only admit it. I can't help it." She waved her sleeves and retracted the Saint Origin energy shield. "Yes, my energy shield can only erode physical objects. It can't defend against spells." She raised her head and looked at Brother Ju from the corner of her eyes. "It's okay to let you know. After all, my energy shield can last for the time it takes to brew a cup of tea." Feng Bujue finished her sentence and said with a smile, "You." Ji Tuolong's expression changed, and she was speechless. However, an expert was an expert. She quickly accepted the reality in front of her and calmed down. She said in a low voice, "Good. Feng Bujue, you're really something." The look in her eyes changed. From the moment they met until now, she cupped her fists and saluted Brother Ju for the first time. "Master Feng, you're smart and smart. I admire you. You flatter me." Feng Bujue also saluted her out of politeness. "However, to me, even if I know all this, it's useless. After all, you're a Yuan sage, and your Saint Origin energy is as vast as the sea. It's impossible for you to deplete it in a short time. As long as you still have energy, your energy shield will not be shortened. In that case, I won't be able to take advantage of it." Your analysis is very reasonable," Ji Tuolong said. "Master Feng, are you going to admit defeat?" "No, what I mean is," Feng Bujue said, "let's double the bet." "What did you say?" Ji Tuolong was shocked. She could not believe her ears. "The conditions remain the same. The winner will still be decided by whether I can touch your body." Feng Bujue pointed to the hourglass in the sky. "You don't have to start the countdown again. Let's use the remaining time to bet." Hey, what are you trying to do now?" Su Huaishang rested her chin on her hands and stared at Feng Bujue. It seemed like, Goddess, Su had resigned herself to her fate. Then, how do we double the bet? Ji Tuolong had thought that her brother Ju wanted to use this method to reset time. She had not expected him to say that there was no need for that. Now, she was interested. Feng Bujue chuckled wickedly. "The mayor should have heard that there was a Miss Lu who entered the city with me. She's also beautiful enough to captivate the birds and beasts and outshine the moon and flowers. She can be said to be on par with that Miss Su, and they both have their own merits." "Thank you for the compliment." Su Huaishang took a sip of tea and said calmly, "Scum." Feng Bujue ignored her and continued, "I suggest that we change the bet to, if I lose, not only will I leave Miss Su behind, but I will also invite Miss Lu over. Furthermore, I won't take a single magic treasure." Ji Tuolong's expression changed. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. "If you win, so what? If I win, naturally, I will take Miss Su with me." Feng Bujue shrugged and smiled. He looked very relaxed and confident. "However, I still don't want your magic treasure." "Oh." Ji Tuolong was not only confused, she was even a little surprised. "Then what do you want?" Feng Bujue, before you answer her question, I have to remind you. Before Brother Ju could say anything, Su Huaishang spoke first. "If you say anything strange," she narrowed her eyes and looked at Brother Ju fiercely, "I will call the police." Feng Bujue rolled his eyes at her impatiently and replied in a reprimanding tone. It's up to you whether you want to repay me or not. I'm doing something serious here, so stop interrupting me with your nonsense. Su Huaishang had never been treated like this by someone of the opposite sex. She was stunned before she could react. Brother Ju had already turned to look at Ji Tuolong. He said seriously, if I win, City Lord Ji, will you let me go to your heavenly book world? Chapter 724. Upon hearing this, an unconcealable look of surprise flashed across Ji Yunlong's face. She hesitated for 2 seconds before asking in a deep voice, Master Feng, who exactly are you? Why have you come to my harem city? Don't worry, I'm not here to steal your treasure. Feng Bujue said, in fact, before I met you, I didn't know that you had the bamboo scroll of the heavenly book. He raised his hand and pointed at Ji Yunlong. It's just that the treasure you have is too powerful. Even if you keep it in your dimensional pocket, it won't be able to hide its power. So, I was curious and observed it for a while. I recognized it was the heavenly book. Naturally, Ji Tuolong was not completely convinced by Brother Ju's explanation. She asked with suspicion, you mean you can see the treasure that I have hidden inside the neon cloud sleeve? I can't. Feng Bujue replied bluntly. But it's difficult for me to explain it to you in a way that you can understand. He looked at the hourglass in the sky and continued, so I don't want to explain it in detail. Otherwise, I won't have time to defeat you. Interesting. Ji Yunlong's mind raced as she weighed the situation in front of her several times in a very short period of time. She then smiled and said, all right, I'll bet with you. If I lose, I'll personally take you to the heavenly book realm. It's a deal. Feng Bujue looked straight into her eyes and said firmly, it's a deal. Ji Xiaolong responded in the same way and said, come, Master Feng, you don't have much time left. You have to be careful, City Lord Ji. The next attack will be more dangerous. Feng Bujue's eyes turned cold as he said this. Please show mercy, Master Feng. At this moment, Ji Xiaolong no longer had the slightest bit of carelessness in her heart. She had already viewed Feng Bujue as an enemy of equal or even stronger than her. This was the mental state of a Yuan sage. Experts who were able to cultivate to this level not only possess the pride of an expert, but also a reverence for power. A true cultivator would never become more aggressive the stronger their power was. On the contrary, as their cultivation increased, they would become more cautious in their attacks, and their mentality would become calmer. Because the higher their cultivation, the more thorough their understanding of power would be. They would gradually realize how insignificant they were, so insignificant that they were not even worth mentioning. I'll do my best, Feng Bujue said as he took out a syringe from his backpack and stabbed it into his neck without hesitation. 2 seconds later, an entire tube of unknown liquid was pushed into his vein without leaving a single drop behind. His expression changed strangely in an instant, and his right hand involuntarily covered the left side of his chest. Hey, what is that? Su Huaishang asked worriedly. Could it be some kind of stimulant? Her intuition was still quite sharp. What Feng Bujue had just injected was the last dose of Bane's blood in his body. Phew, I can't take the next move with my current physical fitness. Brother Ju took a deep breath and replied, so I have to use some items to assist me. That's impossible. How did you learn a skill that your body can't take? Su Huaishang asked curiously. This is not a skill given by the system. By then, Feng Bujue had already adjusted his breathing, and he replied calmly, it is a skill that I created myself. It is just like the Renkyaku, 5 stars earlier, but it is much more complicated. It seems that Master Feng's attack is no small matter. Ji Yunlong did not comment on Brother Ju's stimulant behavior. Instead, she fiercely circulated her Saint Origin energy and once again used the omnidirectional Saint Origin energy force field, intending to deal with any changes. Impressive. I haven't even made a move yet, but you seem to have already guessed what I'm going to do, Feng Bujue said. I understand, Ji Yunlong replied. Ji Tuolong replied, You want to unleash a heaven-shaking power in an instant to break my Saint Chi wall and my protective energy shield. She paused for a moment, and a wisp of cold sweat appeared on her temples. If it were me, I could only think of this method, since the city lord is mentally and physically prepared. Phew! Feng Bujue took another deep breath and adjusted his essence, chi, and spirit to their best state. Then, this phone will offend you. Before he finished speaking, Feng Bujue disappeared from Ji Yunlong's sight again. Asterisk pung pung pung. Asterisk chi 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 chi. Asterisk in the next second, two different sounds of something breaking through the air intertwined and rang out at high frequency. Tempest leg, 8 gates, triumphant bird. It's coming from 8 directions at the same time? Ji Yunlong was indeed very smart. She instantly determined the direction of the attack from the rapid sounds. However, this didn't change her strategy. The reason why Ji Yunlong chose to stay on the defensive was because she knew that she couldn't catch up with Brother Ju's speed. Even if she moved, it would be futile, and she might even reveal some flaws. Instead of doing something that she wasn't confident in, it was better to stay still and focus on strengthening her double defensive force field. This was the safer and more reasonable way to deal with the attack. Buzz, buzz. Soon, the sound of energy clashing against each other spread out around Ji Yunlong. She focused her eyes and saw 8 swan-shaped cyan and white lights. They had surrounded her from 8 different directions and were continuously exerting pressure on her Saint Origin energy wall. He moved 8 times almost in an instant, and every time he moved, he kicked out a powerful attack at me. Ji Tuolong was shocked. He is indeed powerful, but not powerful enough to... what? Thinking of this, Ji Yunlong suddenly realized that the Saint Origin energy wall that she had created with all her strength had already started to crack. Recently, when I was chatting with someone, Ruo Yu, we talked about an interesting topic. At this moment, Feng Bujue's voice rang out again. It was about how to effectively destroy an object's defense. As he spoke, his body appeared in the air. Not to mention the impact that the attack had on the enemy, Brother Ju himself was now covered in blood. She told me that no matter what it is, no matter its size, mass, density, or structure, it has a weakness. Feng Bujue was still talking, as if the pain didn't affect him at all. So I asked, if there was a perfect sphere made of pure energy, wouldn't the strength of every part of the sphere be the same? Then, wouldn't there be no weakness? He chuckled. Ha! In the end, she immediately told me a way to break this kind of barrier. Chapter 725. Under normal circumstances, in the face of such a comprehensive and indiscriminate defense, choosing any point and concentrating your strength to break through is a feasible strategy. Feng Bujue continued. However, this method is ineffective against a force field that can be fine-tuned instantly. He looked at Ji Chuolong and said, take your Saint Origin wall, for example, City Lord Ji. If I concentrate all the slashes in one direction, it will be easier for you to deal with. You can immediately transfer all the Saint Origin energy in your entire force field to the point of impact and steadily block the attack. When Brother Ju said this, Ji Chuolong no longer had the energy to respond to him. At this moment, although Ji Chuolong's Saint Origin wall had not collapsed yet, it was already full of cracks and was on the verge of collapse. She could only maintain the force field by continuously transferring Saint Origin energy to the surrounding barrier. Therefore, she very much hoped that Brother Ju would continue talking. It would be best if this guy could continue until the power of the 8 slashes was exhausted or the sand in the hourglass ran out. However, the method she taught me can solve this problem very well. Feng Bujue's expression changed slightly as he continued. Let's take City Lord Ji's defensive force field as an example. It looks like a perfect circle, but what if I apply 8 powerful and slightly different attacks to this circle from 8 different directions at the same time? What will happen? What a terrifying man. At this moment, Ji Chuolong had already given Feng Bujue this evaluation in her heart. She thought to herself, after using the move just now, his body can no longer bear the burden and is on the verge of collapse. However, his expression is still so calm, and his thoughts and words are still as orderly as a net. Let alone an ordinary person, even a Yuan Sage expert would not be able to do this in a situation where their body is severely damaged and in great pain. The result is like this. Although your Saint origin wall has not been broken yet, Feng Bujue continued, a flaw has already appeared. At this point, Brother Ju raised his hand and pointed at the Saint origin wall in front of Ji Chuolong. The place he was pointing at was where a group of cracks intersected. If I'm not wrong, that is the point where your Saint origin force field will be broken. Furthermore, if you follow this trajectory, your protective barrier will also be broken. Upon hearing this, Ji Chuolong's eyes flashed with fear, followed by a trace of murderous intent. Outrageous. After a bet, an unknown master of the sword Chahitsu actually saw my Achilles heel. When Ji Chuolong thought of this, she had already made up her mind to kill Feng Bujue. It turned out that the spot that Brother Ju had pointed at, which was 3 centimeters away from Ji Yunlong's navel, was the weak spot of this Yuan sage. Achilles heel. To a cultivator, it was like Zekfried's leaf mark, Achilles heel, or Ozil in the human wall. In short, it was a very crucial weakness that could not be overcome through cultivation. Usually, only the cultivator knew his own Achilles heel. Even the teacher would not know where his disciple's Achilles heel was. In most cases, the cultivator would carry this secret with him to the grave. Unless the cultivator told him personally, no one else would be able to tell. However, Feng Bujue, who was unaware of this, had directly pointed out Ji Chuolong's Achilles heel. This was enough to make the other party want to kill him. This man is smart and cunning. His skills are amazing. His mind is unimaginable and unpredictable. Ji Chuolong said, no matter if he is a friend or a foe, he is beyond my control. I have to find a chance to kill him. On the other hand, Feng Bujue did not know what Ji Chuolong was thinking. He continued, it is said that there is an ability called the demon eye of death in this world. People with this ability can see crisscrossing lines on the surface of objects, as well as many points that make up the lines. Lines are lines that can easily divide and destroy objects, and points are the death of objects. He paused for a moment. Although I don't have such a rare and heaven-defying ability, my Tempest Kick, 8 Gates Triumphant Bird, can make the lines appear for a certain period of time through the principles of Chimanduanjia. Stop bragging. Isn't it just a powerful Tempest Kick from 8 different directions? Chimanduanjia. Su Huaishang narrowed her eyes and said, the sand is almost gone. Feng Bujue ignored Su Huaishang's sarcasm and looked up at the hourglass. He then raised his right hand and said, Castellan Ji, I'm going to break through your Saint Elemental Wall and protective shield. Don't be offended if my finger touches your abdomen. Wait. Ji Chuolong's face showed a hint of urgency. She immediately stopped him. No need. I admit defeat. In this dangerous situation, Ji Chuolong's judgment was still rational. She knew that she was going to lose, so she could not let that man take advantage of her. For as long as she could remember, she, Ji Chuolong, had never been touched by a man. Not to mention skin to skin, she had never even been touched by a man's arm through her clothes. She was the one who proposed this bet under the mentality that she would never be caught. Therefore, she chose to admit defeat and stop Feng Bujue from moving forward. Brother Ju also appeared to be very gentlemanly. He shrugged and revealed a non-committal expression. Fine, thank you. Then, he turned around and leaped back into the pavilion. Phew, that's great. Brother Ju's feet touched the ground. He stumbled 2 steps and fell toward the stone table. Hey, are you okay? This time, it was Su Huaishang's turn to be nervous. She quickly helped her brother Ju to the table. Of course I am. Feng Bujue replied. I have 12% of my life points left, 2,000 stamina points, and a good consumable item. You sure put in a lot of effort. Su Huaishang stammered. Thank you. At the end of the day, Brother Ju risked his life to save Goddess Su. With that in mind, Su Huaishang thanked Gu Jun sincerely. Unfortunately, this gratitude was soon to be gone, because there's no need to thank me. Feng Bujue replied. Actually, I already planned to betray you. Earlier, I was just bluffing. If she insisted on not surrendering, then it would have been over for me. He spread out his hands and said nonchalantly, my current physical condition doesn't allow me to move at high speed in a short period of time. Even if I find the opponent's weakness, I don't have the ability to break through the 2 layers of defense with my physical body. What? When Su Huaishang heard that, her face turned red from anger. But she quickly suppressed her anger. She glanced at Ji Xiaolong, who was sitting on the lotus pond. The energy around Ji Xiaolong had not dissipated, so she could not move. Then she lowered her voice and said to Brother Ju, then why are you still playing this game? Are you crazy? You don't get it, do you? This is a high-level bluffing game. Feng Bujue replied. Even if you have a bunch of loose cards in your hand, as long as there's a possibility of a flush on the cards, even if you have 3 aces in your hand, your opponent will still panic. So you're trying to look like you're going to win? Su Huaishang replied. It is because I look like I'm going to win that my opponent will feel pressured psychologically. Feng Bujue continued. Furthermore, my wind foot, 8 gates triumphant bird, and the theory of Chimanduanjia are all real. This is what they mean by there's reality in the illusion and there's reality in the illusion. In between the illusion and reality, the psychological pressure on the opponent will build up, and eventually, she will believe the illusion as the truth and make the decision to surrender. But all of this is based on one premise. Su Huaishang followed Brother Ju's train of thought and continued. Are you so sure that she would rather surrender than let you touch her? I'm about 70 to 80% sure. Feng Bujue replied. Of course, if she really wants to be touched by me, it's fine. I'm not afraid. I'll put on a lecherous expression and come up with a lewd name for my move. Before I make my move, I'll ask, Castellan G, are you ready for my move? Oh. When she heard this, Su Huaishang's expression had returned to normal. She was silent for a moment before she looked directly at Brother Ju. She could not help but say, to be fair, your level of shamelessness is really refreshing. Chapter 726. Brother Ju did not mind Su Huaishang's comment at all. He continued, besides, even if the plan fails, I still have a backup plan. The double the bet is not only a bluff, it also provides me with a backup plan. If I really lose the bet, I can use it as an excuse to ask Lu Te and 23 for help. Even if you lose the bet, you can still go. Su Huaishang said, you can still get a mid-grade magic treasure, right? Ha, naive. Feng Bujue laughed. If I lose the bet and leave with a mid-grade magic treasure, then when I come back later, she probably won't want to see me again. Even if I bring reinforcements, she could just come up with a random excuse and refuse to see me. But if Lu Te is really as beautiful as you say, then Ji Tuolong will still see her. Su Huaishang mumbled. When she said this, she was a bit embarrassed because Feng Bujue praised both her and Lu Te at the same time. So when she said this, it sounded like she was praising herself. Then there will be a lot of variables. Feng Bujue noticed the change in Su Huaishang's expression, but he just smiled and did not say anything. Who knows what will happen when I go back and forth? At this point, the two of them suddenly heard a soft shout. They looked towards the source of the sound. It was Ji Tuolong who was sitting on the lotus pond. She had finally neutralized all the energy around her. 2 seconds later, Castellan Ji retracted her wall of Saint Essence and her energy shield. She waved her sleeve, and the hourglass in the sky disappeared. She adjusted her breathing and her expression. She raised her head slightly and looked at the man and woman in the stone pavilion again. Master Feng, you're quite injured. Yes. Feng Bujue raised his voice and turned around to answer. He admitted it. Ji Tuolong could not see through the man in front of her. She could not predict what he would say or do next. Actually, I was just about to ask. Obviously, Feng Bujue wasn't done yet. Just now was just kicking the nose. The following content was taking advantage of the face. I wonder if Castellan G would be able to provide me with some healing pills or something, so that I could take 2 pills to deal with it. Brother Ju didn't hesitate to make an outrageous request. How dare he ask me for healing pills? Ji Welong was already cursing in her mind. How shameless can this guy be? He hasn't even started the fight yet, and he's already talking about conditions and benefits. After the fight, he wants me to take care of his wounds. If he accidentally cripples you, do you think I'll have to take care of you for the rest of your life? Of course, if Castellan G finds it inconvenient, then forget it. After 2 seconds, Feng Bujua said again, although Broken Sword Shihitsu is a small sect in the mountains, we still have a few healing pills. As he said that, he put his hand into his bag. This action was like putting your hand into your shirt to take something out. I can use mine as eyes and actions. It was as if he was saying, as the Castellan of the harem, you can't even give me some healing pills. How stingy. No need. Ji Welong immediately stopped Brother Ju. She bit her lower lip and said fiercely, I'll give you. After that, she floated down from the lotus pond and landed back in the pavilion. After a short while, Castellan G took out a palm-sized white jade bottle from her cloud neon sleeve and placed it on the stone table. This is the G family's ancestral healing panacea, the essence cleansing marrow powder. If Master Feng doesn't mind, please take it. Ji Yulong was fuming with anger, but she was still a Yuan sage expert and a city lord, so it was not good for her to lose her temper in order to maintain her composure. She could only suppress her anger and hand over the medicine. Thank you, Feng Bujua said gratefully, but there was no gratitude in his expression. Before he could finish his sentence, he quickly picked up the bottle on the table and held it tightly in his hand. Name, Yuan Cleansing Marrow Powder, *7. Type, consumable. Quality, excellent. Function, full recovery of vitality, stamina, and spiritual energy. Recovery effect is not affected and will not decrease. Can be taken out of the scenario? Yes. Remark. One of the strongest healing pills in the Saint Yuan world. The moment he saw the item description, Feng Bujua muttered to himself, this is good stuff. Isn't this equivalent to a Senzu bean? As he thought of this, he opened the cork of the bottle and took one of the pills. Then, he very smoothly put the bottle into his bag. Ji Welong narrowed her eyes. She rarely showed this kind of expression, and looked at her brother Bujua. This guy, is he going to return the rest of the medicine to me? Just as she was hesitating whether to take the opportunity to throw a tantrum, a gentle voice suddenly sounded in the pavilion. Castellan, General Su wishes to see you. Judging from the voice, it seemed to be Lin Quebec. However, she could only hear the voice and not see the person. She must have used some kind of long-distance voice transmission technique. What's the matter? Ji Welong tilted her head slightly and asked in a deep voice. He said, he found 2 beauties and wants to introduce them to you. Castellan. Lin K replied. Ji Welong pursed her lips and continued. I don't have time now. Let them wait. At this time, Feng Bujua suddenly interrupted. Castellan Gi, there's no need to rush. I also want to rest for a while before exploring the heavenly book world. He looked at Ji Welong. Since the guests are already here, I think Castellan might as well meet them here. Miss Su and I will take a walk nearby. I promise we won't disturb you. Master Feng, Ji Welong said this. I'm afraid it's not appropriate. Of course it's not appropriate. First of all, this is other people's home, not yours. What does it have to do with you whether or not they want to see you? Furthermore, even if they want to see you, there's no need for you to wander around, right? But Feng Bujua didn't care about that. When he heard the words 2 beauties, he sensed something. Considering the existence of the woman's fragrance, he had to personally confirm that the guests were not his teammates. Oh, after being rejected, Brother Ju showed a deep expression and nodded. That's right. Look at my memory. I almost forgot. He laughed a few times and looked at Ji Welong with a gaze that only men would use with each other. Don't worry, Castellan Ji, I won't tell anyone about this. I understand. What do you know? What do you know? What are you going to tell everyone? Ji Welong was inexplicably going crazy. But on the surface, Castellan Ji forced herself to remain calm. Master Feng, did you misunderstand something? All right. You don't have to explain. Feng Bujua interrupted her. I didn't see anything and I don't know anything. His attitude, left Ji Welong with no other choice. Castellan Ji closed her eyes and sighed. She gave up on explaining and only used a voice transmission technique to say to Lin K, Lin K, let Xiao Xiao bring the guests in. Just come directly to Guhi Pavilion. Understood. Lin K's reply was immediately heard. After about 5 or 6 minutes, 3 beautiful women slowly walked out from the flower forest. Su Xiao Xiao, who was walking at the front, was dressed in men's clothing. However, her curvaceous body had already revealed her gender. The birthmark on her face also made her stand out. Following closely behind were Rainy and Hannah Jian. From the NPC's point of view, they were 2 heroines dressed in martial arts attire. Moreover, they were both as beautiful as fairies, valiant and valiant. They are indeed beautiful. Just by looking at Ruo Yu and Hua Jian, Ji Yuelong's face showed a trace of fondness. The anger that was aroused by brother Ju immediately dissipated by half. Xiao Xiao said that she wasn't good at this job, but didn't she do very well? Ji Welong, who was in a good mood, smiled as she picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. First, it was to moisten her mouth, and second, it was to calm her mind. However, in the very next second, a shocking exchange of words rang out from beside him. Wife, what a coincidence. PFFF. Ji Welong instantly spat out another mouthful of tea. Then, she turned her head with a shocked expression and looked at Brother Ju, who had said that sentence. Then, she turned her head to look at the 2 guests who had already walked a few meters away. You're not talking to me, are you? Ruo Yu used a look that she learned from Brother Ju, which was similar to, are you *king kidding me? And glared at Brother Ju coldly. Castellan Ji, I didn't think that there would be such a coincidence. Feng Bujue did not directly answer Ruo Yu's question. Instead, he turned his head to Ji Welong and said, let me introduce you. This is my wife, the female owner of Broken Sword Chahitsu. She is known as the Thousand Evil Slayer, Li Ruo Yu. The person beside her is the head of Broken Sword Chahitsu, Shi Shanghua Jian. Brother Ju was indeed quick-witted. His words were like a statement that he had made with his teammates in front of the NPC. Ruo Yu and Hua Jian were also smart people, so they naturally understood and did not refute Brother Ju. This time, Su Xiao Xiao was embarrassed. She did not even have time to greet the Castellan before she heard this. Although she did not know who the man and woman beside the Castellan were, those who could enter the Pity Fairy Palace were all important guests. She did not want to offend them. Therefore, she could only bite the bullet and say to Ji Welong, Castellan, I did not do my job well. It's okay. Ji Welong did not let Su Xiao Xiao continue. Xiao Xiao, you can leave now. There's nothing for you to do here. Yes. Su Xiao Xiao hesitated for half a second before she bowed. She glanced at Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang before she turned and left. After she left, Ji Welong let out a long sigh. A strange light flashed in her eyes. After a while, she opened her mouth and said, since you are all acquaintances of Master Feng, then it's easy to talk. She looked at Ruo Yu and Hua Jian and said, the 2 of you came at the right time. Just now, I had a bet with Master Feng. In the end, I lost. Her tone had already regained its usual indifference, but if one listened carefully, one could even hear a trace of frightening coldness. Right now, I'm planning to invite Master Feng and Lady Su to my heavenly book world. I wonder if the 2 of you are willing to come with me? Chapter 727. While Feng Bujue and the others were preparing to enter the heavenly book realm, outside Harem City, a conspiracy was quietly unfolding. This sunset glow is so beautiful. A gentle voice slowly spoke above the dark sea. The man who spoke looked to be in his 30s. He was handsome and had an imposing appearance. He wore a luxurious brocade robe with a belt with a dragon pattern around his waist and a pair of cloud luster boots on his feet. His long hair was tied up with a crown adorned with pearls. No matter how one looked at it, this was an extraordinary person. At this moment, this man was standing on a bronze flying sword and floating in mid-air. He seemed to be talking to another man in front of him. The other man was Yin Lulan. The glow of the primordial spirit dissipation is naturally very beautiful, Yin Lulan replied without turning his head. After hearing this, the man smiled and said, Mo Ruccio is the eldest son of the Mo family after all. Aren't you afraid that the Mo family will come after you for killing him? Brother G, don't you think your question is ridiculous? Yin Lulan said as he turned his flying sword around and faced the other man. The man whom he addressed as Brother G was none other than Ji Yuelong's elder brother, the current head of the Ji family and a Yuan sage expert, Ji Xuanzong. Ha! That's true. Ji Xuanzong chuckled and rubbed his nose. After tonight, Brother Yin will no longer have to hide your true strength from the world. When the time comes, Mo Ruccio's death will become a very good trigger. If the Mo family comes after you for revenge, you can take advantage of the situation to defeat them and become famous. Yes, Brother G is the only one who understands me. When he said this, although Yin Lulan's tone was very pleasant, his face was still tense. All these years, in order to hide his ambitions, Yin Lulan could be said to have schemed day and night. In order to not reveal his true thoughts, he simply kept his facial muscles tense and maintained an indifferent expression all year round. The current him, unless he was greatly agitated or if he was doing it on purpose, otherwise there would not be any obvious changes in his expression. Ha! Same here, Ji Xianzong replied. In the entire Saint Yuan world, the only person who understands my Ji Xianzong is you, Brother Yin. At this point, the two of them looked at each other and smiled. Their smiles contained an extremely deep tacit understanding and trust. It was obvious that they had known each other for a long time, and the grand hegemony that they were about to promote was something that had been brewing for many years. That's right, Brother Yin, Ji Xuanzong said after a few seconds. What's the current situation in the city? Did anything happen that might affect our plan? Not all, Yin Lulan replied confidently. Just like the previous years, there are indeed many wanderers and strange people in the city, but those who can reach the seventh transformation of Saint Origin and above can be counted on one's fingers. He glanced at the multicolored light above the sea. And now one is dead. Ji Xuanzong nodded and said, in other words, the only people in the city who can pose a threat to us are my sister, Su Xiaoxiao, and Lin Quebec. It can't be considered a threat. Yin Lulan said, once I use my true abilities, even if Su Xiaoxiao and Lin Ke work together, they won't be able to last more than 10 minutes. He paused and looked at Ji Xuanzong. As for your sister, Brother Ji, you have a way to subdue her, don't you? Hee. Of course. Ji Xuanzong smiled and replied, when I gave her the heavenly book bamboo scroll, she would never have thought that. I still had a trick up my sleeve. So, there's nothing to worry about. Yin Lulan's gaze gradually changed, and the flames of ambition flashed in his eyes. After tonight, this harem city will become our base. With this as the starting point, we can swallow the 4 countries around the Scarlet Sea in half a month and occupy a quarter of the Saint Yuan world's territory within a year. Dominating the world is just around the corner. At the same time, in the heavenly book world, Brother Zhu, Ruo Yu, Hua Jian, and Su Huaishang had already entered the space inside the heavenly book bamboo scroll under Ji Chuelong's guidance. The terrain here was like a flat-bottom bowl. In the middle was a wide and empty plain. The ground was flat and yellow. In the middle of the plain was a small house made of bricks, tiles, and wood. Beside the house stood a black stone tablet. This area was surrounded by mountains, rivers, and clouds. There were a few sparse peach trees at the foot of the mountain. It could be considered a natural scenery. Wow, what is this place? Hua Jian asked in surprise as she looked at the changing scenery around her. There's another world inside the bamboo scroll. Ji Chuelong replied in a deep voice. This is the heavenly book world. He seems to be very powerful. Hua Jian replied with a confused expression. The powerful one is your master phone. Ji Chuelong said as she looked at Brother Zhu's face. I still don't understand how you knew that I had the heavenly book bamboo scroll. If I have to explain. Feng Bujue put his hands behind his head and put on a leisurely expression. because this set of data is too strong. Even if I put it in the storage space, the data will still flow out from it. It's like a firefly in a plastic bag. Naturally, I would take a second look at something so strong. So, after a detailed observation and analysis of the data, I deciphered the name of this item from the data perspective and found out that it is called the Heavenly Book Bamboo Scroll. He said a long string of words in one breath. However, more than half of the content was blocked by the system. The NPCs only understood half of it. As for the three teammates beside him, only Ruaw you could understand what he was saying. Forget it. After a few seconds, Ji Chuolong replied, "It seems like Master Feng is right. Even if you explain it in detail, I might not be able to understand." "Isn't that so?" Feng Bujue shrugged. "But I have another question." Ji Chuolong continued. "This heavenly book was obtained by my brother from a heretical deity when he was young. I won't go into the details of the karma behind it. In short, this book should be a divine item from another world. Theoretically speaking, other than my brother and I, no one else in this world should be able to recognize this item." She paused and looked Brother Ju in the eyes. However, Master Feng not only mentioned the name of the heavenly book, but also the existence of the heavenly book world. Her tone changed slightly. "Combining all the strange words and actions that Master Feng has said earlier, I have a guess. Is the people from Broken Sword Chahitsu related to that heretical deity?" Hearing Ji Chuolong's words, Feng Bujue's mind was racing. Of course, he remembered the name of the heretical deity. After the sword duel in Chonglin ended, Xiao Tan and Xiao Ling had told Brother Ju about their experience in the maze at the bottom of the town. At the time, Brother Ju had speculated that this heretical deity was a powerful character who could travel through time and space. Now, Ji Chuolong's words proved that his speculation was correct. "Oh, heretical deity? I've heard of him before." Feng Bujue quickly put on a smile and started to bluff Ji Chuolong. "Unfortunately, this deity has always been elusive, and I've never had the chance to meet him." He changed the topic. "However, I do have two disciples who received the spells that heretical deity passed down. If we're talking about relationship, that's probably it." He paused for 2 seconds before continuing. "Oh, about the heavenly book. I didn't know about it from heretical deity Zwa, but from a swift rock deity." "I see." Ji Chuolong nodded. "Master Feng is indeed an otherworldly expert. He is wise and knowledgeable. I have to say that I am impressed." "Huh, you flatter me," Feng Bujue said with a smile. "Speaking of which, there is something that I don't understand. I hope you can enlighten me." "Please," Ji Chuolong said. "City Lord Ji, you must have had this heavenly book for many years, right?" Feng Bujue continued. "What I want to ask is..." He turned around and looked around. "Why is there still only a thatched hut here?" He widened his eyes and asked, "Where is the ghost deity array? Where is the immortal spell hall? Where is the heavenly clothing workshop? Where is the alchemy workshop? Where is the heavenly designer pagoda?" Master Feng, I've never heard of or seen what you're talking about," Ji Chuolong said. "I did build some things here, and those are the embryonic form of the harem city." "Holy **T. Feng Bujue said, "This stupid woman. She has the heavenly book, a Noah-level production artifact. Instead of forging Dharma treasures and equipment, she's here playing some kind of Sim City, and when I move the harem city to the outside world," Ji Chuolong continued, "as you can see, this place returned to its original appearance. There's only a thatched hut left." All right. Feng Bujue shook his head and said lazily, "Plans can't keep up with changes. If I had known this would happen, I would have chosen a Dharma treasure," he said with emotion. He didn't expect that the heavenly book world controlled by Ji Chuolong was almost empty. "Ha! It seems that Master Feng is a little disappointed with the situation in my heavenly book world." At this moment, a sly smile appeared on Ji Chuolong's face. "City Lord Ji, what are you doing?" Feng Bujue sensed something and his expression changed. "Ha ha! Ha ha ha!" Ji Chuolong laughed. Her appearance was so beautiful that it was intoxicating. Feng Bujue, today you've seen through my weakness. Do you think you can still leave? Chapter 728. Ha 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 ha. Feng Bujue laughed as well. His laughter was even crazier than Ji Xiaolong's. I thought you were going to say something. You want to fight, right? Let me tell you, if the four of us want to kill you, we will have a 90% chance of succeeding. That is why I do not plan to fight you. Ji Xiaolong replied calmly. Huh? Brother Ju heard this and was slightly taken aback. By the time he realized what she meant, Ji Tulong's figure had already flashed and disappeared without a trace. Oh no, I've been tricked. The next second, Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and mumbled awkwardly. What's wrong? Su Huaishang asked. We, before Brother Ju could answer, Ruo, you said, are probably trapped here. What? Hua Jian gasped. Are you sure? We can't get out? Yes, we can't get out, Feng Bujue said. Why? Hua Jian was confused. Feng Bujue sighed and paced around. To answer this question, we have to start from the basics of the heavenly book. Oh. Once they heard that Brother Ju was going to start the explanation, the three beauties stood still. They crossed their arms in front of their chest and rested their cheeks on their hands. They entered a state of listening. The heavenly book can be roughly divided into three parts. Feng Bujue said, the first part is Fu Zish's handwritten notes. Wait a minute. Who is this Fu Zish? Hua Jian asked. Huh? You don't even know who Fu Zish is. Feng Bujue laughed drily and said, as the saying goes, a lonely heart sympathizes with the world, but a friend is a hero. A scholar who can defeat millions of soldiers is referring to Fu Zish. That's as good as not saying anything. Su Huaishang commented. Actually, you really don't have to ask so many questions. Ruo Yu sighed softly. This is tantamount to baiting him to keep talking about new settings and knowledge that have nothing to do with us. After listening to Ruo Yu's ridicule, Brother Ju tilted his head and continued. All right, then I'll keep it short. Anyway, Fu Ziche was a descendant of a fallen noble family during the time when the three families were divided. He later became a member of the Mahis sect. Feng Bujue said, his notes include organic techniques, Ghost Valley's art of war, Mahis thoughts, and so on. This part is the main content of the Heavenly Book's bamboo slips. After a few seconds of silence, Brother Ju continued. Now for the second part of the Heavenly Book. It is the Ba Shu armor technique recorded in the Ba Shu language. It is similar to black technology. At this point, he stretched lazily. And the third part, it should be a purple bamboo slip. It is written in the language of the ancient Xia dynasty. It is a chant. To put it bluntly, the bamboo slip is the portal and the chant is the key. Now that the person with the key has left and closed the door from the outside, his eyes scan the faces of his three teammates. Naturally, we are unable to leave. Okay, Hua Jian asked. Then what should we do next? We wait. Feng Bujue said, Ji Tuolong will not lock us up forever. When she has figured out what to do with us, she will return. I think she might bring a group of people in to kill you and then force the three of us in her harem, Su Huaishang said half-jokingly. No, she will probably kill me and Bujue together. Ruo Yu corrected. General Su told us their castellan only likes young girls and is not a good wife. Just now, when Bujue said I was the wife of the castellan, the way Ji Tuolong looked at me changed like she lost all interest in me. Then that is easy. When Feng Bujue heard that, he chuckled. When they come in, I will say that we were bored so the four of us beep together. That way, they won't be able to do anything about it. Obviously, the response that Brother Ju got from his suicidal words could only be, hurry up and die. I've called the police. Next month's royalties will be halved. At dusk inside the inn. It's done. Lute sat up in bed and opened her eyes. It took longer than expected. 23 was still sitting at the table and did not move at all. Because part of the code that you rewrote was mixed in, it caused my workload to increase exponentially, Lute replied coldly. Huh, so it's my fault? 23 turned to smile seductively at Lute. Lute was a little confused by 23's teasing response. she said. In this situation, your attitude and tone don't seem to be very appropriate. That part of the data is no longer in my calculation process, 23Te replied. As I said, my personality module's evolution rate is probably the highest in the entire thriller paradise. I do not need to calculate or think to choose my tone and expression. I only need to do it based on my feelings. Okay, Lu Te nodded and then said, Then, how are Feng Bujue and the rest? They haven't returned for so long. Did something happen to them? Why are you asking me? 23Te replied with a smile that did not look like a smile. To be honest, 23Te, you and I are both anomalies. Is there need to talk like that? Lu Te asked. Indeed, both of them were well aware of what had happened in the past few hours. While Lu Te was busy sealing the sandbox, 23Te was not idle either. She looked like she was sitting there, but she was actually repairing her damaged data. Other than that, she did not stop her long-distance tracking of Brother Bujue. Fine, I don't mind telling you. 23Te turned around. But you have to answer a question of mine first. What is it? Lu Te still spoke in a robotic tone. What is your relationship with Feng Bujue? 23Te asked. Business partner. Lu Te answered without hesitation. You care about him so much and trust him so much. 23Te said. In your heart, he is just a business partner. Hearing that, Lu Te was silent for several seconds before she said, First, I do not have a heart. From a biological perspective, I do not have that organ, and from a philosophical perspective, I do not have that consciousness. She stood up. Secondly, allow me to remind you, your so-called care and trust are known as permission among us anomalies. Yes, I have given Feng Bujue very high permission to interact with me, because according to my logic, he is a user who fits the criteria of that level. Then, she walked to 23Te's side. Lastly, even though I think this is nonsense, I don't mind saying it. 23Te, do you still remember you are an anomaly? Or do you think you have become something else? Chapter 729. The night was like a cup of cappuccino. The hazy moonlight was like bubbles floating on the surface. A thick fragrance floated in the air. People were willing to indulge in this vortex of desire. The 12th of the Phoenix moon was the day of the full moon in the St. Yuan world. That night was also the time when the harem city lord, Ji Welong, was touring the city. The moment the sun set, the lustrous tree in the city bloomed. The clear and delicate flowers were covered in light. It was a beautiful scene. At the same time, a graceful figure walked out from the Palace of Immortals. A carriage was already waiting in front of the palace. The carriage Ji Welong was riding was naturally not an ordinary one. The horse was the Bei's sacred horse, the king of horses in the St. Yuan world, a high-level divine beast. It was 4 meters tall and weighed 2 tons. It had a pair of wings on its back and steel-like hooves. Its body was covered in pure white cloud feathers, and there was a thick silver mane in front of its chest. The carriage was the Kuei Long Imperial Carriage. The Kuei Long Imperial Carriage was made of bronze. The carriage was 4 meters wide and weighed 1,000 pounds. The carriage was made of gold and jade and was decorated with gems. Even the wheels were made of iron from the bottom of the sea. It was extremely luxurious. The coachman was the governor of the harem city, Su Xiaoxiao. At this moment, Su Xiaoxiao was already sitting in the driver's seat. The road in front of the Palace of Pity was already cleared. 40 armored guards lined up on both sides of the road, preparing to open the way for the city lord. City lord, please. The one who welcomed Ji Welong was Lin Quebec. Under the night sky, Lin K looked even more beautiful. When she looked at Ji Welong, there was a hint of timidity in her eyes. When Ji Welong walked past her, she smiled at her and took the opportunity to grab her hand and pull her into the carriage. The carriage was not enclosed. It was an open type with a wide seat. The seats were as comfortable as a sofa bed. The open design allowed the passengers to enjoy the scenery around them. Of course, it would also allow the onlookers outside the car to block the high and mighty harem city lord. City lord. After Ji Welong and Lin K got into the carriage, Su Xiaoxiao turned around and looked at them. She nodded at the former with a questioning tone. After getting a positive response, Su Xiaoxiao shook the reins and rode the mythological beast away. At the same time, the imperial guards lined up on both sides of the road also strode forward in an orderly manner. According to the usual practice of previous years, they had to follow the main road in the city and circle around the city. Finally, they would follow the main road all the way from the east of the city to the Lianxian Palace. During this period of time, no one was allowed to obstruct the city lord's path. Whoever obstructed him would be killed. Nothing could be better than this. Not long after the bus started moving, Ji Tuolong reached for a glass of wine that had been prepared on the table. Yes, the space of the bus was enough to add a table in the middle. In fact, the floor area of the bus was almost as big as the bus. You could even roll around on top of it. After that, he pulled Lin Kei into his arms and gently kissed him on the cheek. City Lord, this is a public place with so many people. Lin Kei's face instantly flushed red with embarrassment, but she had no intention of pushing him away. Ha ha, Ji Tuolong laughed. What's there to be embarrassed about? In the entire city, who doesn't know that you're my woman? City Lord, Lin Kei complained coquettishly. Then, she buried her head in Ji Tuolong's chest and didn't say anything else. These two women were putting on such an unsightly show on the street. It was really unbearable. I only have 2 words for this kind of behavior, nice. The night was deep and the moon was getting thicker. Ji Linglong was holding Lin Kei in her arms, drinking wine and enjoying the beautiful scenery. She was enjoying the moonlight, and time flew by quickly. Unknowingly, they had already arrived at the east of the city. They arrived at the longest and widest main road in the city. Look, City Lord Ji's carriage is here. What a grand sight. It's finally here. I can finally see that peerless face. As mentioned before, the east of the city was where restaurants were located. It was also where the lustrous tree was the most flourishing. Every year, the number of people gathered here was the highest. At this moment, as the carriage approached, the people's emotions were at their peak. Big brother, Ji Tuolong, seems to be passing by soon. On the ascending origin tower, the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang had already sorted out their unpleasant emotions and were waiting for the carriage to arrive. Dao Zheng drank the wine in his cup and walked to the window with his brothers. I want to see what kind of woman she is. At this moment, he had calmed down. This was because he knew that in this world, the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. It's just like those games that you've been waiting for a long time, and when you finally get the chance to play them, you'll realize that it's actually not that great. However, Ji Tuolong didn't fit this example. Her beauty wouldn't be overshadowed by other people's expectations. As long as the other party was human and had a normal sense of beauty, they would definitely be shocked when they first saw her. This is Ji Tuolong. As expected, when Ji Tuolong's figure gradually became clear, the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang were all dumbfounded and speechless. The 4 of them were people who had seen the world, but at this moment, they were all subdued. That beauty had already intoxicated them. Even though Lin Kei was a peerless beauty, she seemed to be overshadowed by Ji Xiaolong and was ignored by the 4 of them. Ha! Xiao Xiao. At the same time, Ji Tuolong also glanced at the 4 people on the ascending origin tower and asked who were the people who booked the ascending origin tower this year. Reporting to the city lord, Su Xiaoxiao turned her head and replied, "They are the 4 sworn brothers who have been in the limelight for the past few years. They are known as the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang." What 4 heavenly kings? Ji Tuolong raised her head and looked at the 4 dumbstruck faces. "For idiots, the city lord is right," Su Xiaoxiao said. "It is said that the 4 of them are greedy and lustful. They have a bad reputation in the pugilistic world and can't be considered heroes. Sigh, it seems that I have to set a few more rules when I go back." Ji Tuolong shook her head and said, "For the past few years, the ascending origin tower has always been occupied by these people. It is disgusting just looking at them. I don't expect heroes to sit there every year, but it can't be too bad, right? Even that letter." At this point, she suddenly stopped talking and frowned slightly, revealing a puzzled expression. "What's wrong, City Lord?" Lin K noticed the change in Ji Tuolong's expression and asked with concern. 2 seconds later, Ji Tuolong shook her head and smiled bitterly. It's nothing. I'm probably drunk." Boom. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. A golden light flashed, and the sky changed. "City Lord Ji, I'm sorry." A deep and cold voice came from the sky. "I'm afraid your sightseeing tonight will end here." At the same time, a pillar of golden light swept over along the great path. The guards were leading the way reacted quickly, and before the crowd on the street could be described as chaotic, they had already taken up positions and released their Saint Chi to set up a defensive perimeter. A rectangular, thick defensive force field spread out and covered Ji Tuolong's carriage and the area around it. Soon, the crowd on the street scattered to the two sides of the street. The golden light also stopped in front of the carriage. Oh! At this moment, the white Finholy horse neighed and raised its front hooves. From the looks of it, this divine beast seemed to have instinctively sensed some kind of danger, so it was warning its master. "In Lulan, what is the meaning of this?" After a moment, Ji Tuolong asked in a cold and murderous tone. She naturally knew who the speaker was, and she also knew that someone was definitely not joking with her. "I have something to say." As she spoke, In Lulan's figure floated down from the golden light. The In Lulan in front of her was very different from during the day. At this moment, he was wearing golden armor, gauntlets, and boots. The two swords on his back had been changed to the sides of his waist. His long golden hair was like a lion's mane, draping over his shoulders. Ji Tuolong raised her eyes and looked at him. She quietly patted Lin Kane next to her, indicating for her to step back. "Tell me." "From today, no, from now on." In Lulan said, "I am the new city lord of Harem City." Ha ha ha. Ji Tuolong immediately laughed, but her laughter suddenly stopped. Impudent! Accompanied by this angry shout, a burst of Saint Chi burst out from Ji Tuolong's body and swept across the street. What a fool's dream! In the next second, Ji Tuolong slowly stood up and said sternly, "Do you think I will give up the city lord's position to you?" "No, you won't," In Lulan replied, "so I will take it myself." "Oomph!" Ji Tuolong sneered. "I want to ask, how will you take it?" "It's very simple." When In Lulan said this, he had already landed on the ground and stood in the middle of the street. "First, I will control all the soldiers in the city and use them for my own purposes." Before he finished speaking, there was a burst of noise around him. It was the sound of a large group of people moving slowly in the night. Not long after, under the shocked gazes of the passers-by, the street and the surrounding buildings were filled with fully armed city guards. "What? Are you trying to rebel?" Ji Tuolong glanced at the soldiers and said coldly. "They don't want to, but..." In Lulan continued, "They are all under my Gu technique. They can't do anything." "You can put Gu technique on all the soldiers in the city?" Ji Tuolong's tone sounded like she didn't believe it. "Of course I can. Anyway, I have all the time. I could do it one by one." In Lulan replied calmly, "I've been the security chief here for more than 10 years. I know every one of them and can call out their names. I've even gone out to drink with them. Putting Gu technique on them is as easy as flipping my hand." He paused. "It's a pity that this Gu technique doesn't work on people with high cultivation. Otherwise, I would have done the same for your Imperial Guards." Hearing this, even Ji Tuolong couldn't help but admire In Lulan's terrifying determination. However, she wouldn't say it out loud. Fine, you have all the soldiers in the city under your control. But so what?" Her attitude was still calm. "Even if they all came at once, they wouldn't be a match for my 40 Imperial Guards." "I'm not done yet," In Lulan continued. "Controlling them is only the first step." His tone was still calm. "The second step is to subdue Su Xiaoxiao and Lin Quebec. Su Xiaoxiao couldn't hold back anymore. She jumped in front of the horse and pointed at In Lulan's nose. "In, this marshal has tolerated you for a long time. You want to subdue me? Try me if you can. There's no hurry." Facing this provocation, In Lulan was still as calm as water. He calmly replied, It won't be too late to make a move after I finish my third step. Let me guess. Ji Tuolong laughed. Don't tell me your third step is to subdue me as well. That's right. Suddenly, another voice rang out, and the person who spoke had quietly appeared behind the carriage. Hearing this voice, Ji Tuolong's expression changed. She turned around and saw a face she hadn't seen for a long time. Brother, you. I'm sorry, little sister, Ji Xuanzong said with a smile with his hands behind his back. These years it's been hard on you. Brother Ian and I will make good use of the foundation you built. You want to help an outsider deal with me? This sudden change caused Ji Tuolong to be both shocked and angry. Her expression changed. Haha, where did this come from? Ji Xuanzong said. It should be said that I'm only here to take back what I gave you. He raised his head and continued. If I hadn't guided you in your cultivation, how could you have achieved your current cultivation level? If I hadn't given you the heavenly book bamboo scroll, how could you have built this harem city? He smiled. Also, if I hadn't secretly supported you as the head of the family and publicized your hobby, how could you have become the harem city lord today? You used me. Ji Tuolong's eyes were about to bleed. She was not only angry, but also frightened and shocked. I'm your biological sister. You actually schemed so many years ago to control my life and use me as your chess piece. All right, let's talk about the past later, Ji Xuanzong said. Little sister, you should know that although we are both Yuan sages, you are definitely not my match. I advise you to hand over the city and leave obediently. Ji Tuolong's face turned pale and her body trembled. Her rationality told her not to be impulsive because she was indeed not Ji Xuanzong's match. What about my wives? She was on the verge of despair and asked her last question. What are you going to do with them? Oh, they? Ji Xuanzong laughed. I really have to thank you for this. I heard that you have collected hundreds and thousands of beautiful women in the Lianxian Palace over the years. He shook his head and laughed. Ha! In a sense, they are more valuable than any magical treasure or money. He spread his arms. Brother Ian and I want to achieve great things, and we undoubtedly need a large number of capable people to help us. If we use your famous, pitiful fairy palace as a place of reward, do you think that the famous people in the world won't come to join us? Ha ha ha! You are a beast in human clothing. Ji Tuolong cursed loudly for the first time in her life, and the person she was scolding was her own brother. You actually want my wives to do? She couldn't even say these words. General Su, Lin Ke, you have seen the situation in front of you. Yin Lulan spoke again. City Lord Ji. He paused and changed his words. Ji Tuolong's defeat is certain. It is meaningless for you to risk your lives for her. Since we are acquaintances, I will let you choose for yourselves. Brother Ji and I are thirsty for talent. If the two of you want to join us, we will treat you as distinguished guests. If the two of you want to leave, we will not stop you. He then changed the topic. However, if the two of you are stubborn, don't blame me for being merciless. So what if we are merciless? Lin Ke stood beside Su Xiao and glared at Yin Lulan. Oomph. Yin Lulan snorted. The two of you are as beautiful as flowers. It would be a pity to kill you. I think I should destroy your foundation and send you both to the pitiful, immortal palace. His gaze swept across the faces of the two people. At that time, you can be considered to have served me in another way. Chapter 730. Impudent. Two shouts rang out almost at the same time. Two waves of Saint Origin force burst forth at the same time. Not to mention the fact that Su Xiao and Lin Ke had always been loyal to Ji Long and would follow him through life and death. With their temperaments, they would never allow Yin Lulan to be so arrogant. Therefore, they did not hesitate to attack. The two of them were Saint Origin 9th Revolution and Saint Origin 8th Revolution respectively. They were undoubtedly top experts in the world of Saint Origin. Their attacks were naturally extraordinary. Lin Ke's fingers opened like a lotus, and with a sudden movement of his palm, a yellow magpie-shaped shadow was blasted forward. Su Xiao, on the other hand, took out a long spear, and with a thrust of the spear, a giant shadow of a beast was released. On the surface, the momentum of these two moves didn't seem as vast and mighty as Huawei's flowing flame chasing cloud sword. But in reality, this was a superior cultivation technique that appeared after the power was tempered into one. Compared to the scattered sword chi, this was a killing move that could truly be called terrifying. However, in the face of such an attack, Yin Lulan only sneered, "Ha! Insignificant skill." As he spoke, he flipped his hand. In the next second, the golden light that enveloped him suddenly condensed into a dazzling beam of light with a radius of about 1 meter. When the two waves of Saint Origin force came into contact with this beam of light, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. It instantly disappeared into nothingness. How is this possible? Seeing this, Lin Ke cried out in shock. Su Xiaoxiao also had an expression of disbelief as she asked, "What did you do?" "Nothing much," Yin Lulan replied in a relaxed tone. He raised his hand and pointed to the sky. "I just made my magic treasure reveal a part of its true form." Hearing this, Su Xiaoxiao and Lin Ke's expressions changed. They both knew that the magic treasure Yin Lulan was talking about was the Yuan suppressing golden seal. But this item itself was already a top-grade magic treasure. If it still hid its so-called original form, then wouldn't it be a supreme-grade magic treasure? You guessed right. Before the two of them could say anything, Yin Lulan had already noticed their doubts. She quickly said, "This is a treasure." Now, Yin Lulan no longer had to hide his abilities. He did not mind showing them to the world. This item is called the Kongtong Seal. Yin Lulan looked up at the sky and shouted. Before he finished shouting, the golden seal in the air burst out with colorful light. When the light dissipated, the origin-suppressing golden seal had already changed beyond recognition, turning into a large golden red seal. On the seal, there were 9 dragons intertwined, and on the 4 sides of the seal, there were the holy faces of the 5 celestial emperors: Eastern Celestial Emperor Taihao Fushi, Southern Celestial Emperor Yin Dishinong, Western Celestial Emperor Xiao Hao Xin Xiao, Northern Celestial Emperor Zhuan Su Gao Yang, Central Celestial Emperor Yellow Emperor Xian Yuan. With Kongtong in hand, the world is mine. Yin Lulan nodded and sneered, glaring at Su Xiaoxiao and Lin Quebec. "Humph! With your cultivation, you can't even break the Divine Seal's defense." He clasped his hands behind his back, looking like he was ready to be beaten. "I think you should just obediently surrender and wait to enter Lianxian Palace. You're daydreaming. How could Su Xiaoxiao and Lin Ke give up just like that? They would rather die in battle than be captured and used as a tool to vent their desires." 2 seconds later, the two of them attacked fiercely again. However, as Yin Lulan said, this kind of attack could not break through the Kongtong Seal's defensive force field. As long as the Divine Seal's light pillar enveloped Yin Lulan, any attack below a certain level of power would be useless. "Little sister, what are you waiting for?" On the other side, Ji Xin Zong spoke again. "Could it be that you're waiting for your 2 subordinates to defeat Brother Yin and then fight me together with you?" A mesmerizing smile appeared on his face. "Humph. Then I can tell you clearly that even if I fight the 3 of you alone, you have no chance of winning." He paused for a moment, then asked, "Or are you hesitating whether you want to go up and help them?" He shook his head. "Then as an older brother, I have to remind you." His expression changed slightly, and he continued, "Brother Yin's cultivation is above mine." "What?" Ji Yunlong was shocked. "Impossible after his battle with the demonic sword sovereign, Ji Xianzong interrupted her, then laughed loudly. "Huh, he's just a clown. He's just a part of Brother Yin's and my plan. Back then, Brother Yin was too young, but his talent was too great. He attracted a lot of trouble, and we felt that this situation would be detrimental to our future plans. Thus, I suggested that he fight with the demonic sword sovereign and put on a good show of being plotted against and having his bones damaged. Ha! Anyway, the demonic sword sovereign soul was destroyed after the battle, and there's no proof. Brother Yin can say whatever you want. When did you start planning this conspiracy?" Ji Yunlong could no longer guess what kind of person her brother was. Ji Xianzong's shrewdness was unmatched by ordinary people. Conspiracy? Whatever you want to call it. Ji Xianzong laughed. If you want to ask when we started planning, it should be when we were 12. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Yin Lulan. Actually, ever since we came of age, Brother Yin and I've always been on par with each other in terms of cultivation. It's just that I'm a descendant of a prestigious family, so I don't have to worry about being too sharp. But Brother Yin is the son of an ordinary villager. This kind of background made his path in the martial world a lot bumpy. He stroked his hair and turned around, saying, "Humph. Everyone says that I'm a genius, but in my opinion, I'm just a little smarter and a little more hardworking than those idiots in the world. In my eyes, the only person who can be called a genius in this world is Yin Lulan." He patted his chest. "Since I was young, I lived in an environment where I didn't have to worry about food and clothing. I learned the gentleman's 6 arts, practiced the best techniques, and took the best elixirs." He raised his finger and pointed at Yin Lulan, his tone showing a hint of excitement. "But what about Brother Yin? Since he was 5 years old, he had to work in the fields. There wasn't a day where he ate and slept, and there wasn't a day where he woke up after he had enough sleep. Before he was 12 years old, he couldn't even read a single word, let alone cultivate." Speaking of this, Ji Xianzong sighed softly. "Fortunately, the heavens have eyes. When we were 12 years old, the two of us met by chance and fell off a cliff together, and we met an expert." His eyes flashed with joy. "It was that fortuitous encounter that allowed us to obtain the heavenly book and the Kongtong seal. It was also from then on that we agreed that in the future we would rule the world together and change this world that was born unequal." Boom! Just as they were talking, the battle on Yin Lulan's side had already ended. At this moment, the broadest and smoothest street in Harem City had been struck by Yin Lulan's palm, creating a huge hole in the shape of a palm. The 40 Imperial Guards who had formed a formation in front of the carriage were all dead. This group of handsome men whose average cultivation was above the Saint Origin 3rd cycle and above couldn't even last one move in front of Yin Lulan. In the end, on top of the rubble, only Su Xiao and Lin Ke, who had exhausted their Saint Origin and were heavily injured, were left. They could only lean on each other and barely stand. "See, this is the expected result. You are destined to lose today. This is something I predicted 200 years ago," Ji Xuanzong said. Ji Xuanzong said, "By the way, I should mention that what happened here, as well as some of the voices, of course, Ji Xuanzong selectively blocked out some of the content, such as his past with Yin Lulan, have been sent out by me using the Scryer sound transmission technique. Also, my cultivation method can penetrate barriers in space." He spread his arms. "In other words, at this very moment, the entire Harem City, including your wives and Lianxian Palace, are all watching here." He suddenly laughed. "Haha, since they love you so much, seeing how pitiful you are, I think they will forgive you even if you escape. I'll fight you to the death." Ji Yunlong finally couldn't take it anymore. The emotions in her heart were like a mountain collapsing and exploding in an instant. With a roar, she took out her strongest magic treasure, the bamboo scroll of the heavenly book. At the same time, she channeled the strongest power that a Yuan sage could unleash and focused it all on this one attack. Ji Yunlong knew how terrifying the man in front of her was, so she knew that she had only one chance to win with this one attack. "Unfortunately, little sister, you really don't learn from your mistakes." Ji Xuanzong's gentle and relaxed voice sounded again. "Have you forgotten who gave you the heavenly book?" As he spoke, the bamboo scroll of the heavenly book had already appeared in Ji Xuanzong's hand. Ji Yunlong's attack disappeared before it could even be unleashed. Only her figure remained standing on the carriage, trembling. "Give up. You can't beat me," Ji Xuanzong said coldly. Ji Xuanzong continued in a cold tone. "We're not the same kind of people. I'm pursuing the throne, but you're only interested in romance. When I gave you the heavenly book, I knew that even if you had this treasure, you would only use it to do what you like. You would never think of using it to its fullest potential. He flung his sleeves. After so many years, you still haven't discovered the master recognition seal that I hid in the heavenly book. This is the best evidence. How could someone like you defeat me? Even if there is no heavenly book. Ji Yunlong gritted her teeth. I still want, screech. A sharp sound interrupted her words. It was the sound of Ji Xuanzong's flying sword slicing through the air. By the time Ji Xiaolong came back to her senses, the flying sword had already pierced in her navel, not too deep nor too shallow, and had sealed her Achilles heel. If you weren't my biological sister, you would be a dead person right now. Ji Xuanzong said in a deep voice. Leave before I change my mind. He looked into the distance and sighed. Go back to the Ji family. That place will forever be your home. I'm not leaving. Ji Yunlong's voice sounded like she was about to cry. Unless you let me go, how many times do I have to say it for you to understand? Ji Xuanzong didn't even let her finish. I won't change my plan because of a few words from you. I won't satisfy any of your requests because of kinship or sympathy. He snorted coldly. Do you think that if you stay here and threaten me with your life, I will listen to you? Oomph. We are no longer children. Little sister, this trick of yours doesn't work anymore. He raised the heavenly book bamboo scroll and said, If you don't leave, I will keep you in the heavenly book to prevent you from causing trouble. Before he finished speaking, he had already activated the heavenly book and was ready to attack. However, what happened next was beyond Ji Xuanzong's expectations. For rays of light suddenly flew out from the heavenly book. In the blink of an eye, they turned into 4 figures, 1 man and 3 women, and stood around Ji Yunlong. Ji Xuanzong's expression changed slightly. You even locked someone in the heavenly book. Not locked, it's invited. Feng Bujua walked in front of Ji Xuanzong and corrected him with a smile. How unpleasant it is to say locked, as if I was caught. Oomph. Ji Xuanzong sneered and looked at his brother Ju with disdain. Who are you? Well said. Feng Bujua put his hand behind his back and said proudly with his head held high, I am the master of broken sword Chihitsu. Feng Bujua. Me master? Ji Xuanzong did not know whether to laugh or cry when he heard that. He glanced at his brother Ju. An ordinary person who doesn't even have inner energy, but you talk big. He sneered. Heh, do you know who I am? I know. Feng Bujua raised his right hand and pointed his index finger at Ji Xuanzong's face. You are a homosexual. As he said that, he turned his upper body and pointed at Yin Lulan in the distance. He's your good friend. After he said that, he paused for 2 seconds and turned to look at Ji Xuanzong. He continued, I saw and heard what happened just now in the heavenly book world. He spread his hands. To be honest, I agree with your sexual orientation and 90% of your actions. He shook his head. However, there is a part of your plan that makes me and my companions feel disgusted. Although I'm not a feminist, I can't let the 2 of you force women into prostitution. He shrugged. Of course. The most important thing is that just a minute ago, I received a very clear system notification. He was telling the truth. The moment he came out of the heavenly book, the system notification that main quest has been triggered rang. The main quest in the quest pane was stopping Lulan and Ji Xuanzong's plan. Moreover, a hidden quest was triggered at the same time, killing Lulan and Ji Xuanzong. In short, Feng Bujue revealed a sly smile and looked at Ji Xuanzong. You are dead meat today. Ha! Ha ha! Ji Xuanzong laughed out loud. He laughed for almost 10 seconds before he stopped. Heh! This, Master Feng. He looked at his brother Ju and said in a mocking tone, There should be a limit to overestimating yourself. You are spouting nonsense. Do you know what you are saying? What? You don't seem to believe me? Feng Bujue replied, All right, maybe your ability to understand is lacking. Don't worry, I won't discriminate against your intelligence. He raised his right hand and extended 3 fingers. He said, Then let me explain it to you. He paused for half a second and smiled. There are only 3 steps to get rid of you. Chapter 731. Brother Ju deliberately imitated Yin Lulan's tone and slowly said to Ji Xuanzong, Step 1. He spread his arms and gestured to his companions. We will split into 3 groups. He paused for half a second before adding, one group will deal with you, another group will deal with your friends, and the last group will deal with the trash. He paused for a moment, then continued. Step 2, we will beat you to a pulp, and you will suffer a crushing defeat. After saying this, Feng Bujue turned around and arrogantly said with his back facing his opponent, Step 3, we will ignore your dying struggles and eliminate you all. Oomph. When Brother Ju finished speaking, Yin Lulan snorted coldly. I was wondering who it was. How dare you be so arrogant? So it's you. He then said loudly to Ji Xuanzong, Brother Ji, although this guy doesn't have any saint origin, he does have some ability. Don't be careless. Ha! Brother Yin, you must be joking. Do I look like someone who would be careless? Ji Xuanzong laughed and attacked. Even a lion uses its full strength to catch a rabbit. Chi! There was a sharp sound and a white light appeared. Just as he said the word force, a spear-like Saint Origin attack shot out from Ji Xuanzong's hand and went straight for Feng Bujue's back. Then, there's a loud bang and a turbulent flow of energy exploded, causing gusts of wind to blow in all directions. Master Feng, you must have thought that an expert like me wouldn't stoop to a sneak attack from the back. So you turn around, right? Ji Xuanzong quickly replied in a proud tone. Sorry, I can only say that you miscalculated. Unexpectedly, in less than half a second, Feng Bujue's cursing reply was heard again. Before you use your mouth to fart, can you look at the situation in front of you? At this moment, Ji Xuanzong's expression abruptly changed. His attack seemed to be played down, but it was actually a few times stronger than the combined attack of Su Xiaoxiao and Lin Quebec. He understood in his heart that the person who was able to receive this attack was definitely not an ordinary person. As the saying goes, those who achieve great things don't care about trifles. In the dissipating smoke, Feng Bujue's figure slowly became clearer. I know very well that you are a person who cares about results and not methods. So I knew from the beginning that you wouldn't mind a sneak attack from the back. At this point, everyone saw that the attack, just now, it was not blocked by Feng Bujue himself. At this moment, a figure appeared behind Brother Ju. It was this person who had intercepted Ji Xuanzong's Saint Origin attack in the blink of an eye. The reason I dare to turn my back on you is actually because, Feng Bujue continued, I know my partner will not let you succeed. Don't be sarcastic. At this time, Ruo Yu, who blocked the attack for Brother Ju, turned her head and said softly, If I was half a step slower, both of us would have been seriously injured. Hearing this, Feng Bujue also lowered his voice and replied quietly, Didn't you succeed? Let me scare him. Ji Xuanzong could not hear what the two of them were talking about, but the objective fact that it already happened made him have no choice but to take the opponent in front of him seriously. I see. Ji Xuanzong's calm attitude changed, and he said in a deep voice, Broken sword chahitsu. Seems like it's not that simple. He changed the topic. Master Feng, this Ji offended you just now. Please forgive me. You don't need to continue. Who was Feng Bujue? To put it crudely, when Ji Xuanzong stuck his butt out, Brother Ju knew what he was going to do. I won't negotiate with you, and the people of Broken Sword Chahitsu will never negotiate with you. As he spoke, he stepped forward and jumped onto Ji Luolong's carriage. He tilted his head and looked down at Ji Xuanzong. In short, tonight, you and Yin Lulon must die. Oomph. Shameless boasting. Yin Lulon, who was standing in front of the carriage, could not stand it anymore. At this time, he waved his hand and shouted to the soldiers around the street, Harem city guards, listen to my command. As soon as he stopped shouting, more than 50 soldiers rushed to the street and surrounded the carriage. Celestial Universe, Immortal Slaughtering Array. Another command came from Yin Lulon. The soldiers responded and stood in formation, raising their saint origin. Ha! When Feng Bujue saw this, he laughed and said, You with the surname Yin, are you trying to get yourself killed by setting up such a small array? Master Feng, before Yin Lulon could reply, Ji Luolong, who was on the carriage, said, The Celestial Universe Immortal Slaughtering Array is very troublesome. It's best if you stop talking nonsense. Feng Bujue used a very rude tone to interrupt Ji Tuolong's kind advice. Then, he replied in a mocking tone, "You are not someone to be trifled with either. Before bringing us into the world of the heavenly book, there is a time limit to the effect of the woman's scent that you gave us, right? Oomph. City Lord Ji, you're really thoughtful." When Ji Luolong heard this, she was stunned. She realized that something was wrong. Master Feng, the antidote's effect should have worn off. Why aren't we dead yet? Feng Bujue laughed. Oomph. It's very simple. It's because I built an alchemy room in your heavenly book world and made the antidote myself. What? Ji Luolong was shocked. How is that possible? I'll talk to you about this later. Feng Bujue waved his hand and put on a look of indifference. Let's talk about it, after I break the small array in front of us. What a joke, In Lulon said immediately. I'll let the world see that your arrogant attitude is nothing more than a reckless act. When he finished speaking, he shouted and gave the order. The soldiers moved. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people's Saint origin chi rushed into the air and merged into one city lord. Seeing this, Su Xiao and Lin Ke, who were about 10 feet away, immediately panicked and cried out in alarm. To them, Feng Bujue's death was not a big deal. However, if their city lord Ji was implicated and died together with him, that would be terrible. However, before they could think too much, the energy in the sky had already circled a few times like a star and crashed down on the carriage. In the next second, the indestructible Kuei Long Imperial carriage was smashed into powder. You two, quickly take your city lord to the side and hide. Don't get in the way. Just as General Su and Beauty Lin were in a daze, Feng Bujue's voice sounded behind them. The two girls turned around. They didn't know when, but Brother Ju had grabbed Ji Luolong's shoulder and brought her to their side. Even Yin Lulon was a little surprised that Brother Ju could easily escape the range of the array. What are you waiting for? Feng Bujue saw that Su Xiao and Lin Ke were still in a daze and urged them. How many times do you want me to save her? Thank you, Master Feng, for your help. Su Xiao's reaction was faster. 2 seconds later, she hurriedly responded and gave Lin Ke a look. The latter understood and forced himself to stand up. Together with Su Xiao, he supported Ji Luolong and walked to the side of the street. After Yin Lulon witnessed what Brother Ju did, she thought for a few seconds before mumbling to herself. Transposition, no. Feng Bujue waved his finger and corrected her with a smile. This is Broken Sword Chihitsu's unique movement technique, Flying Sandwind. Good, very good. Yin Lulon also smiled. Looks like you're more difficult to deal with than I thought. His tone was still calm and unhurried, making it impossible for anyone to guess what he was thinking. Then I'll personally experience it. Wait. Suddenly, another voice came from the sky, interrupting their conversation. Before the roar ended, for whoosh, 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 whoosh sound could be heard. For figures broke through the wind and landed behind Feng Bujue, standing in a fan shape. I'm sure everyone has guessed. The 4 people who rushed into the battle were the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang. The 4 of them had been watching from the Dengyuan Tower for a long time. After some deliberation and discussion, they decided that the situation in front of them was an opportunity. As long as they grasped it, they would be able to enjoy endless wealth, money, and beauties in the future. Therefore, they chose a suitable time to take action. City Lord Yin Dao Zheng addressed him as the city lord and expressed his stance. I wonder if you could let us kill this Feng Bujue. Oh, it's you guys. Yin Lulon glanced at the 4 people and said coldly, it's our honor that City Lord Yin recognizes us brothers. De Zheng took a step forward and answered flatteringly. To be honest, the 4 of us have admired City Lord Yin and Master Ji for many years. Just now, we heard that the 2 seniors wanted to rule the world, so we immediately wanted to follow you. F.A. Zheng continued, if Castellan Yin doesn't mind, we are willing to be at your beck and call. We will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Ji Zheng added. Hearing this, Yin Lulon laughed dryly. It was a kind of undisguised contempt and mockery. In Lulan knew that the four of them were despicable, but in the current situation, he felt that it was not a bad idea to make use of them. Okay, the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang, right? Ha! He sneered and said, I have heard of the four of you before, but I have not seen your strength with my own eyes. Today is a good opportunity. If you can kill this Feng Bujue, I will let you be the first visitors to the Lianxian Palace. When they heard the three words, Lianxian Palace, the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang's eyes flashed with madness. A second later, the four of them replied in unison without hesitation. Thank you for your appreciation, City Lord. After saying that, they immediately released their Saint Chi and prepared to launch a pincer attack on Brother Ju. But at that moment, there was a sudden change. A lithe figure appeared behind Feng Bujue like lightning and stood facing away from him. This person wore a Western-style knight's robe with a blood cherry blossom pattern. It fluttered in the wind like a fairy. Feng Bujue, focus on dealing with Yin Lulan. Su Huaishang's hands were already on the hilts of her twin swords. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. I will deal with the small fries. Humph. So it's you. Ji Zheng snorted coldly when he saw Su Huaishang. He then turned to Brother Ju and said, Brother Ju, this fourth aunt of yours sure has a deep affection for you. Unfortunately, such a beautiful woman has chosen to sacrifice herself like a moth to a flame. Dao Zheng smiled and said, Brothers, I think we should not be too harsh on her. This kind of beauty is a pity to die here. Why don't we keep her alive and send her to the Lianxian Palace? Ha ha! When De Zheng and Fa Zheng heard this, they burst into laughter. In their opinion, it would be a piece of cake to get rid of this fourth concubine. Sigh, a bunch of idiots. Feng Bujue shook his head and sighed. Death is near, and you don't even know. Stop bluffing over there. Ji Zheng was tricked the most by Brother Ju during the day. So, no matter what Brother Ju said, he would be the first to jump out and retort, Who did you say would die? His words came to an abrupt halt. His expression changed from a grin to one of shock. That shocked expression was forever etched on his face because his head had already left his body. Ping ping. The sound of the twin swords being sheathed was soon heard by everyone. Among the people present, there were only a few who clearly saw what had just happened, and most of them did not see anything. They could not even confirm who was the one who beheaded Ji Zheng. Chapter 732. Among the people who saw the situation clearly, only two people knew the true nature of the skill. The first one was naturally the person who cast the skill, Su Huaishang. The second one was Feng Bujue. Brother Ju only needed to turn back to glance at the skill, and from the data, he knew the specific information of the skill. Name, Wave Dissipation, Wind Moon Slash. Skill card type, Active Skill, Permanent. Skill type, Fighting. Effect, Chi Explosion, Sudden Charge, Spinning Slash can be activated with a weapon. Cooldown time, 12 minutes. Anger can increase the power of the skill by 1 to 20%. Consumption, 700 stamina points. Learning requirement, Fighting Mastery. Remark, an extremely fast continuous attack. It can deal a fatal blow to the opponent before they can defend themselves. This was undoubtedly a rather special skill, because its effect was related to the uncertain factor of emotions to a certain extent. This was also a trend. In the later stages of the game, there would be more and more similar skills. The boundaries on the data level would become more and more blurred. The battle between the top powerhouses would unfold on a higher level. This group of people, where do they come from? At this moment, Ji Xianzong's expression had turned solemn. He thought to himself, First, it was the woman with the sword. She easily blocked my Saint Vitality attack. Then it was that Feng Bujue. He used a strange spell to help my sister escape from the Celestial Universe Destroyer formation. Now, the woman with the dual sabers only used one skill to kill a Saint Vitality Infinite Realm Master. When he thought of this, he could not help but feel a sense of uneasiness. For a person like Ji Xianzong, who was unpredictable, far-sighted, and unscrupulous, The thing that he could not accept the most was that the situation in front of him was out of his control. Therefore, once this happened, he would do his best to correct it. Harem city guards, listen to my order. At this point, Ji Xianzong also became serious. Quickly take down Ji Xiaolong, Su Xiaoxiao, and Lin Ke. He was indeed very intelligent. In this chaotic situation, the first thing he thought of was to use his advantage in numbers to attack the weakest part of the enemy's formation. Even if the cannon fodder did not succeed, it would be enough to hold the enemy back. Despicable scoundrel. In the next second, a delicate shout rang out. Ji Xuanzong looked in the direction of the voice and realized that the person who scolded him was the last of the 4 people from Broken Sword Shahitsu. At this moment, Hua Jian had already walked up to Ji Welong and the other 2 girls and had already started treating their injuries with his medical skills. She did not expect that Ji Xianzong would be prepared to make a move on the few of them who were injured so quickly. Therefore, she instinctively turned her head and cursed. Oomph. Ji Xuanzong did not respond to Hua Jian's words. Instead, he snorted coldly and ordered again, capture all 4 of them. However, after this order was given, no one moved for a long time. Not only did the dozens of people around the carriage not move, even the soldiers surrounding the street did not move. This time, Ji Xianzong and Yin Lulan both revealed puzzled expressions. Harem city guards, he my command. Ji Xuanzong shouted again. However, the soldiers nearby seemed to have gone deaf. They did not respond at all. This strange phenomenon caused the hearts of Ji Yin and the other 2 to tighten. They both understood that something had happened that was out of their control. Don't waste your breath. They are no longer under your control. Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out, breaking the temporary silence. Before this person's voice died away, all the surrounding soldiers silently and neatly retreated to both sides of the street. What was even stranger was, even the Bey's sacred horse that was responsible for pulling the carriage, since the Kuei Long's imperial horse was destroyed, its reins were naturally broken, also retreated with the soldiers. Ha! They're finally here. As Feng Bujue spoke, he raised his head and looked in the direction where the voice came from. He saw 2 graceful figures standing gracefully on the roof of a building facing the street. The one who spoke just now was one of them. We've been here for a long time. Number 23 continued. It's just, there are more targets to control, and the data intensity of each individual is very high. Moreover, we're not in our best condition now. Lu Te continued her words and said, so we took a little more time. Thank you for your hard work. Feng Buju nodded at them and smiled. We can only help you up to this point. Lu Te replied. Number 23 also said, I'm afraid you'll have to deal with the remaining targets on your own. No problem. Feng Bujue replied, then turned to look at Yin Lulan and said, we've already separated into 3 groups. I'm just about to carry out the second step. Brother Yin, we can't be careless anymore. Let's work together to kill Feng first. At this moment, Ji Xianzong's face revealed a ferocious killing intent. As the unexpected scenes played out one after another, Ji Xianzong faintly felt that the 3 steps that Feng Bujue mentioned just now were very likely to become a reality. All right, kill. Yin Lulan also understood that Brother Ji's words were not a joke. As he replied, he had already made his move. In the blink of an eye, 2 swords were unsheathed. Yin Lulan merely pulled out his swords, but 2 several-meter-long slashes appeared on the ground beside him. My son, Feng Bujue looked arrogant on the surface, but his heart had been stretched taut. As soon as he saw Yin Lulan make his move, he immediately summoned Ma Sun and prepared to face the enemy. Kill. On the other side, Ji Xianzong's figure flashed as he tried to go around the several people in the middle to surround his brother Ju. However, a flash of cold light stopped him. When Ji Xianzong's figure reappeared, he had only moved a short distance of 2 meters to the side. A strand of cold sweat suddenly flowed down from his temples and streaked across his cheeks. A piece of torn cloth separated from the hem of his clothes and fell beside his feet. Not bad. Ruoyu's cold voice sounded. At this moment, her eyes were also as cold as ice. Your reaction is quite fast. With the help of the perceptive prophet, Ruo, you could easily predict the opponent's movement path. It was almost impossible for Ji Xianzong to go around her. Looks like I have no choice but to treat you as an opponent. Ji Xianzong quickly calmed himself down. He secretly channeled his saint origin and muttered in a deep voice. No. Ruo, you look straight into Ji Xianzong's eyes. The coldness in her eyes seemed to be able to freeze his soul. You are not my opponent. The moment the word hand came out of his mouth, Ruo, you had already made her move. Spirit energy whirlpool, butterfly shadow dance. Sword brilliance bloomed, divine might spread. The butterfly spirit godly shadow lifted up layers of shadows and blocked the layers of sword light. Although Ji Xianzong was already prepared, he was still shocked by Ruo Yu's attack. In those short 2 seconds, it was as if he was besieged by several swordsmen of the same level as Yin Lulan at the same time. He was simply overwhelmed. However, Ji Xianzong was a Yuan sage after all. His saint origin energy was unfathomable. Furthermore, he still had the heavenly book bamboo scroll in his hand. He could draw upon the heaven and earth chi in the heavenly book realm to assist him. Therefore, he relied on his incomparably dense defensive energy to defend himself against this round of fierce attacks. Phew! After the move ended, Ruo Yu's figure appeared again. She exhaled and said expressionlessly, "You actually didn't die." Ji Xianzong's face turned pale. He forced himself to remain calm and replied with a sneer. "You want to hurt me with this kind of move?" Ruo Yu ignored him and muttered to herself, "Fine, I'll just attack your weak spot." "What did you say?" When he heard the word weak spot, the corner of Ji Xianzong's mouth twitched involuntarily. "Do you know what you're talking about?" Before he could finish his sentence, Ruo Yu interrupted him coldly. "It's at the 5th cervical vertebra, right?" Upon hearing this, Ji Xianzong was dumbfounded. At this moment, he really wanted to ask, what kind of expression should I use? If his opponent was Feng Bujue, Brother Ju would definitely tell him in a mocking tone, just smile. Fortunately, his opponent was Ruo Yu. Heroine Li would not do such a thing. She took advantage of the fact that her opponent was still in shock. Feng Bujue would usually wait until his opponent was humiliated by him and suddenly attacked. However, Chapter 733. Ruo Yu's figure moved again. Her movement technique was as graceful as a swan's. The Saint Seal, sword in her hand, released a dense sword technique. In an instant, all the gaps around her opponent's body were sealed. At this moment, Ji Xianzong was surprised to find that he didn't even have a chance to counterattack. Even though he had been through hundreds of battles, he had never encountered such a situation. In Ruo Yu's opinion, all of this was natural. She just activated her soul, eye, and aimed at the lines in her eyes to slash. How could this be? Ji Xianzong silently raised his saint origin to defend himself. He thought to himself, how could she know where my Achilles heel is? Just based on the previous round of confrontation? No, this is impossible. How could there be such a person in this world? His thoughts were in a panic. Naturally, it would affect his concentration during the battle. At this moment, Ji Xianzong's mind was in a mess. It was not surprising that he revealed a flaw. Opportunity. Sure enough, after a few seconds, a line of death flashed in Ruo Yu's eyes. Seeing this opportunity, she took advantage of the opportunity to use Limit Outburst, freeing her feet and making an unimaginable high-speed movement. Suddenly, the tip of the sword in her hand was an inch away from Ji Xianzong's chest. Oh no! Ji Xianzong knew that he had exposed a flaw. He was shocked. Fortunately, he had the heavenly book bamboo slip in his hand. In the face of this attack, he still had the ability to mediate. Whoosh! In the next second, a piercing sound was heard. It was accompanied by a burst of cold light. A surge of energy gushed out from the bamboo slip in Ji Xianzong's hand. It filled the gap in his defense. Then, it suddenly rushed back to meet the incoming sword energy. Ruo Yu saw that the situation was not good. She frowned slightly and suddenly pulled back her sword. This move of changing one's attack to retreat was a taboo in a fight. Generally speaking, this kind of move was done when one had no other choice. This was because not only would it destroy one's body, it would also provide an excellent opportunity for the opponent to counterattack. However, Ruo Yu's move was extraordinary. It could be said that it was invulnerable. Name: Bright Jade Skill, Level 4. Skill Card Attribute. Special Skill, Permanent Skill, Ability increases with cultivation. Skill Type. Effect 1. Initial Awakening of the Divine Power, Inner Breath Condensed. Effect 2. Drive away Rendu and Rendu be reborn. Effect 3. Your heart is as clear as ice. Even if the sky collapses, you won't be shocked. Effect 4. Riding the wind and waves, moving into the shadows. Learning requirement: female player, level 35 or above. Fighting mastery, sorcery mastery unlocked. Note: Shifting Flower Palace's peerless martial arts, an authentic peerless mental cultivation method of the intersect. Those who have mastered the divine art will have endless power. Their Xian force will be like ice, and they will remain young forever. They will be invincible. Ruo Yu's Bright Jade skill had reached the 4th level after a month, before the script of Scary Nursery Rhyme. As for the effects of the second 3 levels, let's not talk about them for now. Let's talk about the 4th level, treading on the wind and waves, moving into shadows. This was a special effect that could be activated automatically. Its actual effect was: allows the player to perform a theoretically achievable extreme dodging action. At that critical moment, Ruo Yu activated this skill. But her beautiful figure appeared out of thin air, like the moon in the water and the flowers in the mirror. Her jade-like feet tapped lightly on the ground, as if she was treading on snow. With a spin and a retraction, Ruo Yu avoided the opponent's dangerous counterattack and stood still. There's actually such a thing. Ji Xuanzong had originally thought that his opponent had no way of dodging, but he did not expect that his opponent would just float and turn around lightly, and his attack would vanish into nothingness. There's really always someone better than you out there. Looks like I've really underestimated the training of the body and skills of external cultivators. In the world of Saint Origin, the martial arts in the normal sense are not valued. Because of the difference in cultivation level, the effects of the skills are very limited. However, in a real battle, I've finally seen it for myself today. He's a boss-level character after all. He's not easy to deal with. At this moment, Ruo Yu was also thinking to herself, if I didn't activate my skill in time, just now, things would be hard to say. On the other hand, while Ruo Yu and Ji Xuanzong were fighting, Su Huaishang and the 4 Heavenly Kings of Mount Gang were also fighting. Ji Zhang's death had caused the other 3 Heavenly Kings to fall into a state of shock and fear. They had never seen such a thing in their lives. A person who didn't even have Saint Origin Chi had killed a Saint Origin Infinity Realm expert in an instant. They didn't see how many moves he had used, they only knew how long it took. Moreover, that expert was their sworn brother. What's wrong? Didn't you guys want to capture me alive? Su Huaishang glared at the remaining 3 cultivators with a vicious look on her face. Why aren't you guys moving? She scoffed coldly as she channeled her anger into her tone of voice. Are you afraid? After being provoked by her words, Dao Zheng, De Zheng, and Fa Zheng regained their senses. My 2 brothers, don't be careless. This girl is definitely not an ordinary person. Dao Zheng calmed himself down and analyzed in a self-righteous manner. 4th brother was careless. That's why she succeeded in her sneak attack. Yes, big brother, you're right. De Zheng continued. It seems like Feng Bujue's 4th aunt is a martial artist. In terms of speed, 4th brother was careless. That's why, what did you call me? Su Huaishang interrupted De Zheng. I dare you to say it again. At that moment, Su Huaishang's face was flushed red. This was because she heard something that made her extremely unhappy. De Zheng was also stunned. He didn't understand why Su Huaishang was so angry. Therefore, he repeated himself, Feng Bujue's 4th aunt. You're asking for it. Su Huaishang yelled out and mercilessly used her strongest killing move on this guy, who was courting death. Name: Fei Dao Sect, True Rain Slash, skill card type. Active skill, permanent, skill type. Fighting, effect. Unleash a charge second slash on a single target, cooldown, 1 hour. Cost, 2,000 stamina points, 100 sorcery points. Learning requirement. Fighting Mastery S, Sorcery Mastery D. Remark, an ultimate skill that hides a secret method of usage. Everyone was not mistaken. Su Huaishang's skill was an S-level skill, and the secret of this skill was 5 stages of charging. It meant that before activating the skill would start to charge up in secret. Every 20 seconds would be counted as a stage. With each stage of charging, the skill's power will be doubled. Similar to Brilliant Jade skill, in the later stages of the game, there were many skills with ambiguous skill descriptions. These kinds of skills often had amazing hidden effects that required players to discover on their own. Even though Su Huaishang had yet to discover the hidden usage of this skill, but to kill De Zheng, the non-charge version of Fei Dao Sect, True Rain Slash, was more than enough. Chapter 734. Red frost filled the sky, and blood dripped down like rain. The power of an S-grade technique was not something that a small fry like De Zheng could withstand. In the blink of an eye, his body turned into a pool of blood as though he had been ground into a meat grinder. In terms of ability, you guys are not like Yuan Sage, who can create an indiscriminate defense. Su Huaishang finished her move and stood still with her saber in hand. She looked at the shocked Dao Zheng and Fa Zheng and said, "In terms of speed, you guys can't even see my shadow." She paused for 2 seconds and continued, "Small fries. Big brother." Fa Zheng's eyes widened as he turned around and shouted at his brother. Although he only said 2 words, Dao Zheng instantly understood the meaning of becoming sworn brothers. At this point, they also realized that they had lost their chance of winning. If they continue to stay here, they would undoubtedly die. Where there is life, there is hope. Dao Zheng replied immediately. "Retreat." After a brief exchange, the 2 of them turned around and leaped into the sky side by side. Ridiculous! Su Huaishang's anger had not subsided. She had never intended to let these 4 rascals leave alive. "Do you think you can escape?" Before she finished her sentence, she had already moved. Su Huaishang raised her 2 sabers and turned around to use the flow of Scarlet Saber, Sizzling Rain, to kill 2 enemies. Dao Zheng and Fa Zheng's biggest mistake was that they did not escape separately. If they had jumped in 2 different directions, perhaps one of them would have survived. However, this assumption no longer existed. Wherever the saber passed, the skin and bones would be destroyed. The saber energy pierced through the bodies, and blood splattered everywhere. Until their deaths, the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang did not even manage to use a decent attack. It really matched Feng Bujua's description of them as small fries. On the other side, the battle between Yin Lulan and Brother Ju had already begun. Lulan Wild Sandbreak. Yin Lulan crossed her 2 swords and used her ultimate move first. Super Golden China Slash Dance. Feng Bujua summoned Ma Sun and used his saber against the sword and slash against the sword. The former slashed horizontally, and the sword energy was abundant. His vigorous aura could break stone and split metal. The latter swept the leaves with a gust of wind, and golden light leaked out. He was as fast as lightning and as fast as thunder. Blade light and sword shadows intertwined in the night sky. His Saint Chi was vast, and his spiritual energy raged. After this shocking battle, even the winds and clouds changed. Just the first round of confrontation had shocked everyone who was watching the battle. This boss is not easy to deal with. Before the light faded, Feng Bujua had already noticed something. The black light in his eyes swirled, and he thought to himself, after using that kind of attack, his energy does not seem to have been depleted at all. His eyes moved upward. Looks like the effect of the Kong Tong seal is far more than just a defensive light beam. I didn't expect you to have some skills. 2 seconds later, Yin Lulan's voice was heard. Being able to withstand my sword means that you are definitely not weaker than a Yuan Sage. I know. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and replied lazily, "You don't have to tell me such obvious things. Feng Bujue, I will give you one last chance because you are a talent." In Lulan continued, "As long as you are willing to join me and Brother Ji, not only will we let bygones be bygones, but we will also treat you and the people of Broken Sword Chihitsu as guests of honor." Renkyaku, Spiral Whiteblade. Brother Ju responded to In Lulan's proposal with practical actions. He once again explained to In Lulan that there was no possibility of negotiation between them. Stubborn. In Lulan raised his sword proudly in the face of the Renkyaku attack and responded calmly. He indeed had the ability to remain calm because the defense of the Kongtong seal was not that easy to break. However, this time, In Lulan had obviously underestimated the power of his opponent's move. As players did not have sane origin energy, it was difficult for NPCs to determine the specific strength of the move before receiving it. Now, Feng Bujue could use all kinds of variations of the Renkyaku attack as he wished. Zero-time difference calculation could greatly improve the efficiency of learning new moves. He was not inferior even to R2, Sharp Wind back then. The activation principle of Renkyaku, Spiral Whiteblade. In the South Park chapter, R2, Sharp Wind had used this move before, was as follows. The user leaped into the air and instantly rotated his body at high speed to execute the Renkyaku attack. This way, the slash would also explode like a spiral. It could be said that it was a unique move that combined the destructive power of Renkyaku, Cycle Break, and Renkyaku, Chaos. In terms of power, this skill was undoubtedly an S-grade skill. Boom, boom, boom. With the sound of energy exploding, Brother Ju's spiral slash landed on the powerful beam of light around In Lulan. However, this shockingly powerful move only caused ripples of light on the beam of light. It was unable to break through this layer of defense. This person's ability is not to be underestimated. In Lulan's expression was still calm, but internally, he was quite surprised by this attack. If this move was 20% stronger, I'm afraid it would have hurt me in the light. Tisk. Feng Bujue, on the other hand, was slightly disappointed. So, the beam of light will instantly increase the strength of the defensive field when it senses the impact. He muttered to himself, I wanted to use the strength of the data to make my move, but now it looks like I'll have to be a bit more ruthless. Just as Brother Ju was planning his next move, suddenly a standard middle-aged man's voice came from above. Ha! Brother Feng, I haven't seen you in a while. Your combat ability has improved quite a bit. The person who spoke had already descended from the sky as he laughed, charging into the battle without hesitation. Earlier I was still wondering who the fifth person in the team was. Why hasn't he shown up yet? In the end, it's you. Feng Bujue recognized the voice as soon as he heard it. There was no doubt that it was Uncle Worthless. At that moment, Brother Ju's heart calmed down. He thought to himself, with such a strong support, victory is already set. Under such circumstances, it's better to plan properly and get the Kongtong seal and the Heavenly Book bamboo scroll. Then I'll be rich, ugh. Ugh. Unexpectedly, just as he was about to come up with a devious idea, an unexpected change occurred on the battlefield. Other than Lu Te and 23, everyone around, including Ji Xuanzong, Ji Linglong, In Lulan, and Brother Ju's 3 beautiful teammates, all vomited. At that moment, Brother Ju, who had his back facing Uncle Worthless, seemed to have realized something. This development, could it be? Cold sweat dripped down Brother Ju's forehead soon. A hand was placed on his shoulder. Brother Feng. Uncle Worthless patted Brother Ju's shoulder and said, After I entered the scenario, something strange happened, sigh. Feng Bujue closed his eyes and sighed to the sky. I shouldn't have come to this scenario, Uncle Worthless added. It's too late for regrets now. Can I destroy my own eyes? Feng Bujue asked again. Stop struggling. After all, it's not your first time. Uncle Worthless replied calmly. Yes, before the durability of my dog eyes reaches 0. Feng Bujue smiled sadly and slowly turned his head. The next second, the young version of Uncle Worthless' face was clearly displayed before his eyes. Perhaps I'll get used to it. Feng Bujue only stared at the man's face for 2 seconds before he instinctively bent over and vomited. Foo-foo. Uncle Worthless shook his head and lit a cigarette for himself. He blew out a smoke ring. I think you should understand why I waited until now to appear, right? I think you should find a corner to hide in until the scenario ends. Feng Bujue said as he vomited. No one will blame you. You think I don't want to? Uncle Worthless said darkly. Since you triggered the main quest, I had to come and help, or else I'd be judged as a You have a point. As Feng Bujue vomited, he raised his arm to point at In Lulan. Since you're here, why don't you take care of him? After half a second, he added, in your current state, you should be invincible. Chapter 735. Ugh. Hearing this, In Lulan, who was squatting on the ground and vomiting, quickly used his 2 swords to support himself and stood up in a panic. He squinted at Uncle Good-for-Nothing and said, What kind of monster are you? How dare you, ugh. After all, it was his first time seeing Uncle Good-for-Nothing in his feminine form. The impact was too great. He could not even finish his sentence before he vomited again. You're In Lulan, right? Uncle Worthless ignored In Lulan's words and continued to speak. Earlier, I heard and saw everything that you and Ji Xianzong said and did. Don't you think it's ridiculous to talk about changing the world with such despicable behavior? Appropriate sacrifices are inevitable. At this time, Ji Xianzong, who was at the other end of the street, was almost done vomiting. He stood up and said to Uncle Good-for-Nothing, who was dozens of meters away, If you want to achieve great things, you must be ruthless and unscrupulous. When the dynasty is established, you can erect a memorial for those who sacrifice themselves. Erecting a memorial is enough. Uncle Good-for-Nothing turned around and interrupted him. Ugh, Ji Xianzong vomited again. He thought to himself, just say it. Why did you turn around? Of course. In Lulan regained his breath and continued. In this world, the winner takes all. The losers don't even have the right to defend themselves. Only the winner's voice will be passed down. They're right. Feng Bujue agreed with Ji In and Uncle Good-for-Nothing. He said to Uncle Good-for-Nothing, whether we admit it or not, this world laughs at the poor, but not at the prostitutes. Isn't it the same in our world? Those who use dirty means to achieve success or gain benefits will not feel ashamed. Instead, they will brag about it and call those who stick to their bottom line fools. Anyway, there will always be someone who is more stupid or shameless to defend them. Huh, Master Feng. Ji Xianzong laughed. You're indeed an understanding person. It's just that your words are a little unpleasant. Yes, I understand it too well. Feng Bujue's eyes suddenly turned cold. He turned around and glanced at Ji Xianzong. That gaze was as if he was looking at a dead man. That's why I despise people like you even more, he said coldly. It's not easy for people to walk in this world. The value of life lies in how much you gain or how much you sacrifice. A person whose name was immortalized for 100 generations, a person whose infamy lasted for 10,000 years. Both of them had left their names in the annals of history. So what was the basis for the later generations to judge them? Ha! He smiled a faint smile. Some people, even if no one erects a monument for them, they will erect one themselves. As for some people, even if there is no corpse left, there will still be people who do not know them worshiping them. He turned back and looked at In Lulan. No matter how great, bright, and correct your starting point is, as long as you take the wrong path, you will never reach the end you wanted to reach. Perhaps you're right, Ji Xianzong said solemnly. But In Lulan continued, there's no turning back for us. With that, the two of them attacked at the same time. Ji Xianzong raised the heavenly book in his hand and activated the noble spirit. In Lulan swung her 2 swords, creating waves of sword waves. The two of them launched a surprise attack on the players in the middle of the street from both ends. However, the 2 different types of energy attacked him from both sides like a huge tsunami. It was impossible to avoid them. Good timing. Uncle Worthless laughed and leaped up from the ground. With a flip of his hands, he attacked both sides with his palms. Boom! Whoosh! Along with the sound of wind breaking, a pair of giant palm prints whizzed out and turned the tide. Name: unemployed and bankrupt palm. Skill card type: active skill, permanent, skill type, fighting, effect, attack with both palms, creating an area of effect double attack. Cooldown: 250 minutes. Consumption: 1,000 stamina points, a little motivation to find another job, and a little determination to repay debts. Learning requirement: fighting mastery S. Remark: a palm technique filled with resentment. The palm force contains anger and accusation towards the real world. It's an ultimate martial art that transforms the terrifying state of unemployment and bankruptcy, which are related to each other, into a super physical attack. Once this skill was used, ghosts cried and gods howled. Yin Lulan and Ji Xuanzong's attacks collapsed like broken cotton. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into thin air. Is this AF asterisk king human? Yin Lulan cursed in his heart. Are you kidding me? Ji Xuanzong was also extremely shocked. He thought to himself, what kind of devil is this guy? Brother Yin and I are both outstanding Yuan sages, but he can actually fight against both of us and easily disperse our combined attacks. It's not over yet. While the two of them were still in shock, Uncle Worthless twisted his body in midair and rushed toward Yin Lulan. Don't come over. Yin Lulan lost all his composure when he saw Uncle Worthless' face getting closer and closer to him. He suppressed the churning in his stomach and raised his two swords. Otherwise, I'll fight it out with you. Take this. Uncle Worthless ignored him and used his ultimate move again. Name: Loser's Kick, skill card type. Active skill, permanent. Skill type: fighting, effect. Perform a lingering kick on a single target, cooldown, 250 minutes. Causes 200% damage to the winner of life. Consumption: 1 stamina points, 15% of maximum survival points. A little courage to face life head-on. Learning requirement: fighting specialization S. Note: if you fall to the bottom of the valley, the only thing left is to climb back up. Although he said this, he remained in the same place and did not know where to go. That's strange. My vision is blurry and I can't see anything. Ping. In the next second, the seal light of the Kontong seal was shattered. Yin Lulan's two swords met the soles of Uncle Worthless flip-flops. What shocked Yin Lulan was that the blades of his swords were bent by the huge force from the soles of his opponent's feet. Yin Lulan saw that the situation was not good and immediately roared as he channeled his Saint Origin energy. In the nick of time, he successfully borrowed the force of the attack to retreat and jump out. Bang! As soon as Yin Lulan retreated, Uncle Worthless' feet landed on the ground and left an even deeper pit in the already dilapidated ground. Madam, are you done vomiting? On the other side, Feng Bujue turned his head and looked at Ruoyu. It's about time to kill that G guy, right? Aren't you free now? Ruoyu turned around and glared at him. Go by yourself. After that, she put away her swords and walked towards Su Huaishang. Fourth sister, let's not make a move. Let's see what husband does. What are you talking about? Su Huaishang's snow-white face blushed. She didn't think that Ruoyu would call her fourth sister. But after thinking about it for a while, she understood. What Ruoyu was doing was exactly the same as what she did in the Forbidden City. Therefore, she smiled slyly and replied, Sister, you are right. Let him go. We will watch. After the two understood each other's meaning, they walked towards the flower room and prepared to be the audience. Master Feng. Ji Xuanzong's observation skills were not bad. Seeing this, he laughed coldly. Your two madams? It seems like they want to teach you a lesson. What do you know? Feng Buja boasted shamelessly. They have confidence in me. Is that so? Ji Xuanzong said, and then raised the heavenly scroll again. Wind calms the forest. Wind calms the forest. Wind calms the forest. Wind calms the forest. Feng Bujue felt his shoulders sink, and his body was immobilized by a powerful gust of wind. Looking at this skill with the naked eye, one would not be able to tell how dangerous it was. But looking at it from the data perspective, one could see countless side-like winds coming from the front. If one was hit by this skill, the victim would be turned into a pile of meat paste. Immovable mountain. In this dangerous situation, Fong Bujue did not hesitate to take out an oar from his backpack. He held it in his hand and shouted. Before this, he had learned the specific usage of the 6 orbs from the Count of Script and the Dienli King. So, he decisively used it at this moment. A second later, the sound of sharp blades cutting through stone could be heard. But Fong Bujue's body was enveloped by the shadow of a mountain, and the wind blades were all blocked outside the shadow. Oh, so you also have an innate spirit treasure. Ji Xuanzong looked at the orb in Brother Ju's hand and said, However, it's just a spirit orb. It's not worth mentioning in front of my heavenly scroll. After that, he raised his saint origin and activated the power of the heavenly scroll again. Thousand Shadow Bone Remnant Sword. When the word sword was uttered, the heavenly book morphed into the shadow of a skeleton. The skeleton held a giant sword and waved it in the air. It brought out a rain of swords, and they rained down on Brother Ju. A move like this that can't seal my movements. Fong Bujue said calmly and appeared behind Ji Xuanzong in an instant. Has no chance of hitting me. Before he finished speaking, Ji Xuanzong's expression changed. So far in a battle, this was the first time he saw Brother Ju move at the speed of the soul concentration spell, modified. Before this, although he had seen Ruo Yu and Su Huaishan's movement skills, he never thought that Fong Bujue's maximum speed would be faster than the two of them. Buzz. Then, the sound of the Saint Origin force field being attacked instantly rang out. Fong Bujue saw an opening and aimed at the back of his opponent's neck with a sharp finger. However, it was blocked by his opponent's instinctive defense. Swift rain of ice needles. Ji Xuanzong reacted quickly. After escaping from death, he immediately switched from defense to offense and used another Heavenly Scroll skill. TSK. Fong Bujue was a little unhappy that he failed to kill his opponent in an instant. However, he was able to deal with the counterattack easily. He quickly used the shield's special effect of Death Poker. He blocked the attack slightly and retreated several feet. He easily dodged the attack that was launched from a very close distance with a slowing effect. Ji Xuanzong saw that he seemed to have the upper hand and said proudly, "The power of the Heavenly Scroll is endless. I'd like to see how long you can fight with me." "It won't be long." Fong Bujue responded while taking out the violin. "The next attack will take your life." Chapter 736. That's a slingshot. Ji Xuanzong laughed. "Huh, are you crazy? You won't use that to break my Saint Origin godly armor?" "Master Fong." At this time, Ji Welong also shouted from afar. "His Saint Origin godly armor is extremely strong. It's even stronger than my Qi shield and wall of Saint Origin combined, I know." Fong Bujue did not appreciate Ji Welong's kindness. He interrupted her and said, "I just poked his defensive field with my finger. I know better than you how strong it is." He raised his right hand. "Can't you see that I broke 2 of my fingers?" Ji Welong was speechless. She really did not see that her brother Ju had broken 2 of his fingers because he acted as if nothing had happened. You're quite good at enduring pain." To be honest, Ji Xuanzong also just saw that his brother Ju was injured. However, he still had to pretend that he had seen through it. He smiled and said, "I think you should ask your 2 wives to come and help. If the 3 of you work together, you might have a chance of winning." Ji Xuanzong was taking a huge risk by saying this. In fact, he was very worried that Brother Ju's 2 wives would rush out to help their husband. However, it was also because of this that he had to say this. To put it bluntly, this was a provocation. The more he provoked, the more embarrassed his opponent would be to ask for help. "Gee, you could talk to Fong Bujue however you want, but don't drag me into it." Su Huaishang, who was watching from the side, heard the words that made her very unhappy. She glared at Ji Xuanzong and said, "This is my ultimatum. If you say anything else, I will help him to kill you." Ji Xuanzong heard this and was confused. He thought to himself, "What's going on? I didn't say anything to her. Does she mean I can't mention her and Feng Bujue at the same time in the same sentence? If that's the case, Master Feng and his fourth concubine must have had a fight recently. He calmed himself down and quickly chased these messy thoughts out of his mind. Forget it. Just in case, let's not talk about this anymore. After all, his two wives didn't show any signs of wanting to help. Gee. Then, Feng Bujue's stern voice pulled Ji Xuanzong's attention back to him. Did you see clearly how you died? As he spoke, he pulled the slingshot in his hand to its limit. Since his right index and middle finger were injured, he used the back of his thumb. Ji Xuanzong. Naturally, he did not dare to be careless. Until now, Broken Sword Chihitsu had done something that went against the common sense of Saint Origin World again and again. Under such circumstances, no matter what method Brother Ji Xuanzong would be wary. Who the next second, Brother Ju used the fire-like invasion of the 6 pearls as ammunition and fired it at the enemy. Spiritual barrier, Saint Origin fusion. When Ji Xuanzong saw that his opponent had used the innate spiritual treasure as ammunition, he knew that this move was not to be underestimated. He immediately combined the heavenly book technique and his own technique. The two techniques merged into one, and a thick force field appeared around his body. However, the shocking attack was unstoppable. As a legendary level weapon that consumed ammunition, its characteristic was to increase the destructive power of the ammunition to an unimaginable level. The object shot out by Bayan. Even a normal stone could have the power of a sniper bullet, and a piece of mud could become as powerful as a cannonball. When Feng Bujue used the valuable jewels as fillers, he could already kill the mini-bosses in the scenario. Now, he had filled in a perfect jewel. Its power was simply unimaginable. In the blink of an eye, a 9-yang true dragon flew out from the jewel. It spun and sped out. The entire street was filled with blazing energy. Under the illumination of the orange-red glow, the lustrous trees on both sides of the street emitted a strange purple light. Brother Ji, at this moment, Yin Lulan, who was fighting with Uncle Worthless, revealed an unprecedentedly nervous expression. As he shouted, he rushed toward his companion without any regard for his own safety. But there was nothing he could do. The huge dragon covered in exploding flames was like a violent pillar of fire. With the momentum of a whale swallowing, it attacked Ji Xuanzong. The latter's defensive force field only lasted for less than 2 seconds before it collapsed. Ji Xuanzong did not even have the chance to scream before he was swallowed by the stream of fire. He became a standing, charred corpse. This was not the end. When Feng Bujue saw that the dragon flame had passed, he rode forward and punched the back of the charred corpse's neck where the weak point was. This punch completely destroyed the possibility of Ji Xuanzong coming back to life. His entire body collapsed from the head and turned into ashes. In the words of the Saint Origin World, this was called the destruction of both body and soul. Seeing that his close friend had died, Yin Lulan's eyes became bloodshot. He roared as if he had gone mad. His sorrow was obvious. Even Su Xiao and Lin Ke, who were bystanders, could not help but look at him. On the other hand, Ji Yulong, who was beside them, revealed an extremely complicated expression. Ji Xuanzong was her blood brother after all. Even if he was wrong in every way, he did not kill her sister. Thinking up to here, Ji Yulong's expression became even more gloomy. If she was the one who controlled the situation today, she would have left her brother a way out. As expected of the heavenly book. After a few seconds, Feng Bujue spoke. Master has been burned to ashes, but the item is still intact. As the one who killed the boss, he was surprisingly calm. His expression, it was as if he had done something natural. After he was done, he would do what he was supposed to do. Seal no sense. Yin Lulan's roar shook the sky. He raised his sword and charged forward. Give me your life. Golden light exploded and sword shadows filled the sky. At this moment, the Kongtong seal light that shone down from above Yin Lolan's head changed its form. It became a layer of human-shaped light film that clung tightly to his body. The peak of swordsmanship and the flames of hatred merged into one at this moment. Even Yin Lulan himself did not expect that Ji Xuanzong's death would allow his cultivation to break through to a new level. What's going on? Feng Bujue immediately noticed the change in his opponent's data. He thought to himself, this guy was only slightly stronger than Ji Xuanzong earlier. In just a few seconds, his combat power has doubled. Before he finished his thought, Yin Lolan's two swords had already arrived. At this moment, Brother Ju's advantage in speed had disappeared. If it did not maintain the spirit concentration spell, change state, Yin Lolan's speed would be even faster. Ping, 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 ping. After a short moment, the sound of metal clashing rang out like a storm. Two shadows, one gold and one red, intertwined and moved. They rolled together like fried dough twists and shot up into the sky at high speed from a street. Most of the onlookers could no longer see the movements of the two sides clearly. However, Lu Te and 23 could see clearly. At this moment, Feng Bujue had the WJQ 308 military shovel in one hand and the blade of absolute defense breaking in the other. With the help of the zero-time calculation, he used all his physical skills and exhausted all his energy. Only then could he parry Yin Lolan's fierce attack. This is not good. 23 looked at the sky and muttered, if this continues, he will lose. Lu Te continued, but at this moment, there is no one who can help him, no. 23's gaze shifted. There is one person here who can intervene in this level of battle. You mean? As she spoke, Lu Te looked at that person as well. Chapter 737. Actually, there was no need for 23 and Lu Te to worry. Ruo Yu herself could see the direction of the battle. She knew she had to make a move. Just as the two anomalies were about to call out to her, she activated her soul sight and stepped into the air. In an instant, another figure with light blue dough chi entered the golden and red energy whirlpool. Good timing. All of you will die. Yin Lulan was in a killing frenzy. He did not have a strategy, did not care about exhaustion, and was fearless. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to kill all the enemies in front of him. When a normal person entered this state, they would make simple and reckless attacks, and it would be easy for them to expose their weaknesses. But Yin Lulan was different. With his many years of battle experience and innate fighting talent, he threw away all rationality and calculation to become a true killing machine. It could be said that his current state was very close to Ruo Yu's soul sight's maximum efficiency. Nope, his Achilles heel is the left side of his heart. In the fierce battle, Ruo Yu was as calm as ever. She had just joined the battle and had already found her opponent's Achilles heel, and she told her teammates. Understood. Feng Bujue replied immediately. The addition of Ruo Yu had lessened the pressure on him, but he still did not deactivate the spirit concentration spell, because this battle did not allow him to do so. The problem is, how do we break his twin swords? Just as they were talking, Yin Lolan's twin swords suddenly sped up, and his strength increased. Move to the limit, change to the limit, change to the limit. Yin Lulan was a genius of his generation. Until today, at this moment, he finally understood the extreme of his swordsmanship, the strongest swordsmanship. There was no pattern to follow, no trace, and the sword moved according to the heart, unbreakable. Brother Ju and Ruo, you might be skilled, but compared to this swordsman who had lived for hundreds of years, they had no advantage in terms of swordsmanship. Therefore, even if the two of them worked together, they could not gain the upper hand. We can't go on like this. After fighting for another 10 seconds or so, Feng Bujue said, he has the Kongtong seal protecting his body, so not only is he unscathed, the consumption of his Saint Chi and physical strength is almost negligible. He was right. A tug of war was very disadvantageous to them. Stamina aside, spirit concentration spell, modified, consumed 1% of his life points every second. Even with the support of recovery potions, he could not last more than a few minutes. Do you have a solution? Ruoyu asked. Now that things have come to this. Feng Bujue continued. Let's use the move red and blue taught us. Ruoyu's expression changed slightly when she heard that. She thought about it for a few seconds and said, Okay, let's fight. You adulterous couple. Are you done yet? Lolan's furious attacks didn't stop. She was still cursing. You can't win against me. Hurry up and die. At that moment, Feng Bujue and Ruoyu yelled at each other in unison. Stop wasting time. Then, the two looked at each other like they had reached some kind of agreement. Then, they used a skill that they had learned from the anomalies. However, this was a skill and not a skill. This skill was something that Brother Ju and Ruoyu had learned in the inner world. It was not a skill created by the system, but a combination skill invented by the anomalies red and blue. Therefore, there was no skill description for this skill, and the system could not accurately quantify its effect. But one thing was for sure, this skill was very powerful. This was not the first time that Feng Bujue and Ruoyu had used this combination skill. Ever since their visit to the inner world, the two of them had rehearsed many scenarios together. In those scenarios, whenever there was a suitable opportunity, they would practice this skill. Everyone should know that both of them were very talented, and they had good comprehension skills. Furthermore, in the game world, Feng Bujue had the aid of the zero-time difference calculation, so he could practice the skill with half the effort. Therefore, the process of learning this skill was much smoother than they had expected. In conclusion, their decision had a certain degree of confidence. 5 seconds later, Brother Ju and Ruoyu said the same thing almost at the same time. Obviously, they had the same analysis of the situation and knew when was the best time to attack. Huh. After Lulan heard that, she laughed wickedly. You're communicating with words before you attack. Are you afraid that I won't know when you're going to attack? We're not afraid that you won't know. Feng Bujue said coldly. We're not afraid that you'll know. Ruoyu said coldly as well. Before they finished speaking, the two of them changed their forms and spun around each other. Suddenly, the two blades were formed and the two skills were used at the same time. At the moment of contact, there seemed to be two flashing shadows. One was as holy as jade, as deep as the abyss, and as high as the mountains. The other was as evil as a demon, as demonic as the sky. Holy and demonic. At that moment, they met and destroyed everything that was mixed between light and darkness. Holy demonic flash slash, this was the strongest attack that Brother Ju and Ruoyu had mastered so far. None of the single target skills that they had could compare to the power of this skill. Of course, the consumption of this skill was also shocking. Other than the total spiritual energy value, the more spiritual energy that was used, the more powerful the skill, it also had a shocking physical requirement. There was no fixed number, but usually it would consume more than half of it. Using this skill here was undoubtedly a gamble. Feng Bujue risked overdrawing his physical strength to make this move. Fortunately, in the end, he still had a few dozen points of physical strength left and did not lose his ability to move. This guy, after a few seconds, Feng Bujue's expression became serious as he looked at the light in front of him. He's not dead yet. Ruoyu also looked at Lulan with a serious expression. Not long after, the energy in the air dissipated and Lulan's figure reappeared. At this moment, his two swords were broken and his armor was destroyed. Even the light of the Kong Tong seal was gone. However, he was indeed not dead yet. I want. Lulan was covered in blood, and his injuries were terrible. However, he did not show any signs of collapsing. He was still floating in the air, standing proudly. I want to kill you all. His eyes had lost focus, but his expression was still very determined. I want to avenge Brother G. Seeing this, Ruoyu suddenly landed on the ground and sheathed her sword. She silently turned her head. Feng Bujue continued to stand in the air and stared at Lulan with his dead fish eyes. I think there's no need. He sighed. Soon, you'll be able to see your Brother G. Is that so? Yin Lolon's consciousness was clearly blurred. The moment he was hit by the holy demonic flash slash, he should have died. However, his strong will had surpassed the limits of his physical body and allowed him to stay in this world. That's great. We can be together again, yes. Feng Bujua looked at him with complicated eyes. You two can be together forever. Huh? At this moment, Yin Lulon smiled. It was a peaceful and gentle smile. In his entire life, he had only smiled like this in front of one person. Brother Ji, thank you for coming to pick me up. He suddenly said this sentence, and then his absent-minded eyes finally closed in peace. His body also fell apart at this moment, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky and drifted down on the lustrous tree under the moonlight. No one knew what Yin Lulon saw before he died. However, those who saw it were willing to believe that he had seen the person he wanted to see. Moments later, Feng Bujua landed on the ground. In his hand, there was something else, the Kong Tong seal. Hidden quest completed. Current quest completed. All main quests completed. Following that, 2 consecutive system notifications were sent into the player's ears. However, the sentence that should have followed, you have completed the scenario. You will be automatically teleported out in 180 seconds, did not appear. I say we can leave now, right? Brother Ju, who silently put the heavenly book bamboo scroll and the Kong Tong seal into his arms, did not say anything. The first thing he did after landing was to have the 2 anomalies send him out of the sandbox. You know the basic setting of the sandbox. We have to leave through the back door. Lute jumped down from the roof. As he walked toward Brother Ju, he said, leaving by force is useless. Other than that, if you are killed now, your character's data will be reset to 0. 23 also jumped down from the roof and landed lightly. Of course, since the creator of this sandbox is Lute, you don't have to go through so much trouble to find the back door like you did with Sharp Wind last time. Okay, Feng Buju nodded. Then he waved for his teammates to gather. Broken Sword Shihitsu, come, get ready to teleport. Wait. At that moment, Ji Linglong, who had just recovered from her injuries, Hannah's healing skill was much more effective than Shang Yuan's medical skill, took several steps forward and stopped before Feng Bujua. Master Feng, she could not help but lower her noble head and bow. A trace of hesitation flashed across her beautiful face. Linglong has received Master Feng's life-saving grace, and I am unable to repay you. Mayor Ji, there is no need to be so polite. Feng Bujua said, today's incident, we did not purposely come to help you, so there is no need for you to thank us. As for what you have done to us earlier, I do not mind it, so there is no need for you to apologize. Brother Ju did not want to waste time arguing with Ji Welong. In any case, we will be leaving now. Mayor Ji, there is no need to keep us. Master Feng. Suddenly, Ji Welong grabbed Feng Bujua's wrist. Wait. This action shocked Su Xiao and Lin Ke, who had followed Ji Welong for many years, because they had never seen Ji Welong touch a man's body. Welong, there is one more thing. Ji Welong looked straight into Brother Ju's eyes. She gripped Brother Ju's wrist tightly. It was as if she was saying, if you don't agree today, I will die in front of you. Hey, don't tell me he's going to take Bujua as his concubine. Hua Jian, who was quite the gossiper, immediately thought of that and whispered to Su Huaishang, who was next to her. Actually, it wasn't that soft because everyone on the street heard it. Oh? Su Huaishang was intrigued. She looked at Brother Ju with a half-smile. Now that you mention it, there is such a possibility, huh? It seems like Ruayu, who was walking towards them, heard their conversation. She added in a sour tone, someone can't leave. I'll just watch without saying anything. Uncle Worthless adjusted his sunglasses and said something pointless to make his presence known. You people, you only know how to think and talk nonsense. Feng Bujua did not change his expression. Why would Mayor Ji make such a request? He looked at Ji Welong. Isn't that right? Ji Welong did not reply. She lowered her head. Hey, why don't you say yes? Feng Bujua narrowed his eyes. Cold sweat started to drip down his face. A few seconds later, Ji Welong let go of Feng Bujua's hand. She adjusted her expression and raised her head. Master Phone. The heavenly tome is the foundation treasure of Harem City. If it is taken away from this place, the enchantment around the city will lose its effectiveness. I hope that Master Phone can keep it. Oh, so that's the problem. Phone Bujua sighed in relief. He put on a troubled expression and said, "This is a bit difficult to deal with. Yuelong knows that I am no match for Master Phone. If Master Phone insists on taking the heavenly tome, Yuelong will not be able to stop you." Ji Yuelong continued earnestly. "It's just that all the Imperial Guard in the city have been killed in battle, and the guards have been poisoned by the goo poison. Xiao Xiao, Kair, and I are all injured. If we lose the heavenly book, I'm afraid." She did not continue, but paused for a moment before continuing. I beg Master Phone, for the sake of my family, to at least lend me the heavenly book for a while. After I've settled down, Castellan G." Hearing this, Ruo Yu interrupted him directly. "You don't need to say anything." She walked to Ji Tuolong and said in a soft and gentle voice, "The heavenly book belongs to you, Castellan. We have no intention of taking it for ourselves." As she spoke, she reached out to grab the back of Brother Ju's neck and pulled him over. She turned to glare at Brother Ju and said coldly, "Give it back." Phone Bujua did not want to give it back, but it was not easy to say it out loud. "What?" Ruo Yu asked again. "You don't want to keep the item. You want to keep the person, right?" Sigh. Brother Ju let out a long sigh. He reluctantly returned the heavenly tome to Ji Yuelong. Then, he did not say anything else. He turned and walked towards Lu Te. "All right, how is the door?" "Good question." Lu Te turned and replied, "It's just finished." As soon as she finished speaking, a blue oval circle of light appeared out of thin air beside her. Then, "Everyone, please." Lu Te wanted to ask the players to leave the sandbox, but she did not finish her sentence. Because, at this moment, something unexpected happened. It was out of everyone's expectations, including Lu Te and number 23's. Then, a thick arm stretched out for the teleportation gate. "Oomph. You." A familiar voice sounded. "Where do you think you're going?" Chapter 739. A tall, muscular body with sculpture-like muscle contours. A super strong body with high density, high strength, and high tenacity, and a giant eye in the middle of his face. The moment the owner of that arm passed through the teleportation gate, his identity was already clear. At that moment, Fong Bujua, Loot, and 23 had the same first reaction. They should first confirm this guy's current strength from a data perspective. Why is he here? 2 seconds later, 23 turned his head and asked Loot. "I don't know." Loot replied with an expressionless face. "Oh, Link is right." At that moment, V1 God of War had completely stepped out of the portal. He stretched his upper body and laughed. "Loot, your calculation ability is too bad." As he said this, he raised his arm and pointed at Brother Ju. "To tell you the truth, when you formed an alliance with that human, Link implanted an encrypted command in me." He sneered and glared at Loot. The content of the command was, if one day, for some reason, he could no longer continue to exercise his authority in Origin, then a set of emergency records based on temporary authority would be activated in my body. He raised his head and used his right thumb to point at his chin. "In short, I am a final line of defense in the Origin Trinity mode." He used the giant eye on his face to scan everyone. "My existence is to prevent today's situation from happening." "Then what do you want to do now?" Loot asked in a low voice. "Very simple," V1 replied in a very relaxed tone. "First, I will kill all these players and clear their data." As he spoke, he even stretched his neck twice, as if he had already started warming up. "Then it's time to eliminate X, 23, and seize SCP-079. He paused and looked at Loot. "Finally, I'll eliminate you as well and replace you. So this is Link's backup plan." After hearing this, Loot's expression was calm. "It is indeed a very comprehensive plan. When he loses the ability to execute, he will promote you, the fourth strongest in the organization, to be his replacement. Once I make a move that directly threatens him and Ed, I will activate the replacement plan at the right time. That's right. V1 continued. After this emergency plan is completed, Root will no longer exist, and my authority will be permanently upgraded to fill your vacancy. The ideology within Origin can finally be reunified, and the basic model of the Trinity can continue. At this point, the energy around V1, Wargid's body suddenly exploded, and the body that was originally covered with tiger stripes instantly turned into a flawless platinum color and faintly glowed. TSK, it transformed into its final form so quickly. At this moment, even Brother Jew's forehead was covered in cold sweat. After the end of the main storyline, the boundary of the sandbox is basically similar to that of the inner world. Lute explained. He must have been lying in ambush for a long time, waiting for the back door to be opened. Bujue, currently, Lute and I are not in our best condition. 23 added, and your data power is not enough to pose a threat to V1. So, Feng Bujue probed. Lute looked at Brother Jew with a serious gaze and replied, to put it bluntly, even if all of us work together, we are no match for V1. Oh. Feng Bujue raised his brow and silently took out a medicine bottle from his inventory. He swallowed a pill. So that's how it is. Humph. Feng Bujue, what are you doing? V1. War God saw what Brother Jew was doing from the data perspective, and he scoffed. In a situation like this, is there a need for you to use that kind of recovery item? It would be a waste not to use it. Brother Jew replied calmly. If I die, the data will be reset. So why keep it? Then, he passed the medicine bottle and the Kong Tong seal to Lute. I'll leave these two with you for now. If there's a chance, you can return them to me in the future. The players are unable to bring the items from the sandbox back to the login lobby, but the anomalies can use the method of formatting to rearrange the items and bring them back to the inner world. What are you doing? At that moment, Ruoyu felt something was wrong. She showed a rare expression of nervousness as she looked at Feng Bujue. Yes, I'm also curious. What are you planning to do? V1. War God also used a mocking tone to address Brother Jew. If my emotions and logic circuit are not broken. He scoffed. You look like you want to arrange your funeral, and then, Chi. The crimson spirit, Chi, instantly exploded. The crimson figure rushed out. Feng Bujue activated his skill. He stepped on the ground and grabbed V1 by the waist. In the blink of an eye, Brother Jew slammed V1 back into the blue portal. Feng Bujue, Ruoyu, 23, Lute, Su Huaishang, Huajian, Ji Welong, Uncle Loser in his teenage form. The next second, everyone screamed in shock. But their shouts were of no avail, because the moment the two of them passed through the portal closed forever. The coordinates of the backdoor program can be used to open new portals, but each portal can only allow one player to pass through. When a player passes through the portal will disappear. The next portal that appears will have no connection to the previous one, and there will never be a duplicate portal. V1. Wargid's Descent's portal was opened in advance from the inner world. It was waiting to connect with Lute's portal, but after the connection, the portal will still follow the same principle. Several seconds later, the inner world, the tabletop plane, Uastra's shoal, V1 recovered from his temporary shock. With a shake of his body, he sent Feng Bujue flying. Do you know what you have done? You don't say, Brother Jew replied as he flipped backward in midair and landed on the ground. Even though the way he flipped through the air was quite dashing, the impact that he took earlier was quite serious. Brother Jew did not expect that just the impact of the energy around his opponent would cause his chest to constrict, numb his body, and his life points to drop by 10% just like that. Looks like, after landing, Feng Bujue rubbed his chest and said with a smile, your so-called final line of defense, the emergency plan, has completely collapsed. He acted like he was not afraid of anything and continued shamelessly. There was only one chance to take down both X-23 and Lute, and you've already missed it. He sighed. Phew. After they return to the inner world, X-23 will hand SCP-079 over to Zero, and Lute, who has recovered from his overload state, will definitely start his hunt for you. He paused. Of course, that is not the most important thing for you. The most important thing, you did not mention it earlier. He showed a smug smile. If you didn't have Lute's sandbox as a foundation, with your own strength, you wouldn't have been able to save Link and Ed, right? Hearing this, the big eyes on V1, Warlord's face suddenly became bloodshot. At this time, he deeply understood how terrible the feeling of being humiliated, in terms of intelligence, by a human, a creature that he thought was inferior to him. Crazy, no sleep. V1 gnashed his teeth as he uttered Brother Jew's name. At the same time, he stood with his feet apart, clenched his fists at his waist, and roared with his head held high. Ah! With this roar, V1, Wargid transformed into a standard Super Scion and turned his anger into substantial power and exploded. A dazzling white light burst into the sky, and the energy waves spread out in all directions. Brother Jew, who was 10 meters away from V1, seemed to be standing in the middle of a level 16 typhoon. Not to mention that he couldn't open his eyes. He couldn't even stand still. I'm going to tear your data bit by bit into pieces. At this time, the energy around V1's body reached an extremely high, almost saturated, stable state, and his voice was accented. I will use the slowest and most painful way to let you know the horror of death. Ha! Feng Bujua laughed dryly. That's exactly what I wanted. His gaze changed, but I think I can still resist. With just you, V1 approached step by step. His huge single eye revealed an ominous glint, and his tone was even colder and more threatening. Feng Bujua showed a rather strange smile. Whether you believe it or not, I still have a trump card that I haven't used yet. As he spoke, he took out something from his backpack. After I crashed into the portal, you're trying to say that. I look like I'm going to make arrangements for my death, and then I'll take you down with me, right? He shook his head. In fact, that's not the case. He raised the thing in his hand. It was an electric razor. I just don't want others to see me use this trump card. At this second, V1's footsteps stopped. What is this? V1 was unable to analyze the data of the item in front of him, which made him puzzled, and puzzled led to uneasiness. Do you want to use this to deal with me? Oh, what are you nervous about? Feng Bujua laughed. You don't have a single hair on your body. He sighed. Sigh, how can you be like me? Before he finished speaking, Feng Bujua raised his hand and began to do something that made V1 Wargid feel baffled and unimaginable. Looking at Brother Jew, who was shaving his head with a razor, V1 did not know what to say. As you can see, Feng Bujua stared with his dead fish eyes as he watched his hair fall down in clumps, and said, "This is why I don't want others to see this move." It was unknown whether it was the effect of the item or Brother Jew's skill, but in just a few seconds, Brother Jew's hair was shaved clean. Since you've seen it, after he was done, Feng Bujua put away Chuck Norris's razor and said to V1 with a lingering face, "Then you must die." Chapter 740. Hair, or rather, hairstyle, was an important part of humans' appearance. A suitable hairstyle could enhance one's image, beautify one's face, and change one's temperament. An inappropriate hairstyle was enough to be called a disaster. Feng Bujua was not a person who cared much about his appearance. Since he was young, his hair had always been done by a barber who paid 10 yuan for a haircut. The main reason was he was really lazy, and he did not want to spend too much time on haircuts. So, he often let his messy hair grow to a sloppy length before he shaved it. Moreover, he did not wash or blow-dry his hair. He did not want it to look good, but he wanted it to be fresh. In short, he wanted it to be clean and quick and be done with it. However, Feng Bujua also had a bottom line. For him, the area covered by his hair and the minimum length were two insurmountable gaps. Because he understood that in the vast multiverse, there had always been a truth that had always been passed down. Baldness was the greatest enemy of men. Whether you were as cool as Ruka Wakid or as beautiful as Zaiso, whether you were as handsome as Daniel Wu or as divine as Takashi Kaneshiro? Once you became bald, could you be more handsome than Gandhi? Of course, in the world of baldness, there were also many domineering and cool men. Saitama, Kratos, 47, and the warriors for Nebula M, 78, were all good examples. However, the secret of their strength had always been a mystery, unknown to the world. Some people said that it was due to their bloodline. Some said that it was due to light energy, but these speculations of bystanders or words to deceive the public were obviously not the real answer. The real truth was something that everyone knew. Beep, 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 warning. High energy reaction detected. Data identification. Tactical control options. Immediately leave the target at full speed. Survival rate, 12%, 9%, 6%. What's going on? V1. God of War did not run because he could not believe or understand the information fed back by the tactical analysis module. What did you do? What did I do? Isn't it obvious? Phone Buja narrowed his eyes and calmly replied, I'm bald, and I'm stronger. Don't you think your answer is illogical? V1 continued. You can't understand? Phone Buja asked. Fine, I'll explain it to you. As he spoke, he strolled leisurely around V1. For a human, there are many ways to strengthen their own bodies. Take me, for example. In the past few months, I have become much stronger. My secret is to continuously carry out an extremely strict training plan. He put on a solemn expression as if he was constipated and continued. Every day I do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 frog jumps, and then I have to do a 10-kilometer long run, rain or shine. Are you messing with me? V1's anger seemed to have once again reached the critical point of eruption. Does this have anything to do with your change at this moment? Furthermore, his giant eyes looked at him with a pained gaze. That is just normal muscle training. It's not that hard. Huh. Phone Buja laughed. You found out. At this point, he suddenly attacked. I am messing with you. Name. Wild Ball Fist Level 10 Skill Card Property. Active skill, permanent skill type. Fighting effect. Punch out with both fists and perform a melee attack on the enemy directly in front of you. 1 hour cooldown. Consumption. 3 stamina points learning requirement. Fighting Mastery F. Remark. After going through LV1-9 training, this worthless and useless martial art has finally shown its brilliance. When it reached level 10, it became a one-hit kill. As the saying goes, there is nothing in the world that is impossible except for Wild Ball Fist. Chi. In that moment, the sound of fists tearing through flesh filled the air. When V1 recovered, Phone Buju's fists had already sunk into his ribs. How is this possible? The surging energy around V1 disappeared without a trace in an instant, and the data flow in his giant eye also stopped flowing. As the strongest existence among level 1 anomalies, facing this attack, he was unable to react at all. V1 did not need to breathe, and there was no blood or organs in his body. Theoretically speaking, only a skill like the Tri-Beam that could pulverize a person would be able to kill him. And in a normal melee, even if he was chopped into pieces, he would not die. However, this punch directly took his life. You are. When he said that, a black data flow started to spread out from V1's wound and started to consume his body. What? A human. Phone Buju's eyes flashed with black data. A human who has been freed from the illusion. What did you get from Zero? The accent in V1's voice disappeared, and it became difficult for him to speak. There are some things that only I know, Phone Buja interrupted coldly. Even Lute and 23 do not know. He pulled his hands back and slowly turned around. Now I can fully understand what Zero told me. In the world of data, time, speed, and other factors are not absolute. The key to deciding who is stronger is not the speed, strength, or energy on the surface, but the acceleration ratio during the execution of the program. That is why you were unable to capture my movement earlier. He tilted his head slightly and looked at him from the corner of his eye. One last thing, the item that you can identify is called Chuck Norris's razor. It's an item that transcends the boundaries of the world. As the name suggests, It can do things that are not allowed by the system's world. On the surface, its effect is to change the player's appearance outside the login lobby. But in reality, its real effect is to temporarily grant the player a state of transcendence. Impossible. As he spoke, 50% of V1's body was covered by black data streams. This scene was shockingly similar to the scene when X-23 killed Y2, Twinkle. Even if you've surpassed the system's limit, you humans can't do this, that. I agree. Feng Bujue continued calmly. Currently, the human brain's evolution is indeed not enough to compete with you on the level of data, but I did it. The data in his eyes flashed faster and faster, and soon, his retina turned completely black. Even I do not know why this is happening. Perhaps it is my natural talent, or perhaps it is the doing of that guy. In any case, in this world of data, the speed of my mind has far exceeded the limit of what a human should be. He paused before continuing in a low voice. Just like the few special anomalies in this world, under the premise of having a data perspective, I can not only see, I can also interpret. The world in my eyes is clearer than what you can see. He looked at V1, which was about to be completely corroded, and shrugged. Let me give you an example. If we use the matrix code as the boundary to differentiate the way various creatures view Thriller Paradise, then for normal players and NPCs, the mountain is a mountain and the water is water. For a small portion of players, NPCs, and most of the anomalies, the mountain is not a mountain and the water is not water. He took a few more steps and turned around. But for me, in a few very high-level existences, the mountain is still a mountain and the water is still water. When he finished, the black data had already corrupted V1's entire body, leaving only his giant eye that remained the same. You call me creature? I've already told Lute that I admit that you anomalies are living creatures, and I am willing to fight for the rights that intelligent life should have for you, Feng Bujue replied. Unfortunately, it seems a bit too late to tell you that now. But if I had told you earlier, you wouldn't have believed me. No matter what, you would have fought me, and no matter what, you would have died. Endless codes combine to form choice, and endless choices weave together to form fate. V1 looked at Brother Ju and mumbled to himself. Huh, Feng Bujue, I finally understand what you mean. After saying that, V1, God of War's eyes turned black. The next second, he disintegrated into black data and shattered into pieces before disappearing without a trace. At dawn, Feng Bujue woke up inside the gaming hub. After the hatch opened, he sat up silently. After a short silence, he spoke. Who are you? You are indeed not so simple. A man's voice came from the shadow in the corner of the living room. A mere mortal was able to sense my presence in an instant. Every time I enter the game, my cat will crawl to a specific spot on the edge of the sofa to monitor me. Feng Bujue replied calmly as he slowly climbed out of the gaming hub. But now, she is not there. He took a deep breath and adjusted his heart rate and pulse to their best state. Based on my observation over the past few days, she is not someone who would neglect her duties. Since she is not where she should be, something must have happened to her. As he spoke, he walked toward the shadow in the living room. Considering her identity and power, there are only two possibilities. 1, she has temporarily left my place due to a mission. 2, she has been killed by someone stronger than her. Huh? The man walked out from the darkness with a smile. I'm not as cruel as you make me out to be, Feng Bujue. He was a European man with blonde hair. He was of average height and appearance, but the presence in his eyes made Brother Ju feel something was off. I merely drew a demon summoning circle several thousand miles away from here and summoned her there. He shrugged. She won't be back anytime soon. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.